The demon's wings burst out from his hands like jagged spears of darkness, launching into the sky. His scream ripped through the city like a siren, sending people into chaos. Some bolted in fear, while others froze in place, their faces twisted in horror. Among the chaos, a boy stood motionless, his eyes locked on the terrifying figure above. Sparks danced in the air, their glow reflecting in his crimson eyes. A sudden bolt of lightning streaked across his cheek, breaking his trance. He winced, turning away as pain surged through him. Electricity crackled around his body. It wasn't just light, it was agony. His pupils narrowed, and he screamed as if thousands of crimson threads were piercing through his flesh. Lightning wrapped around him like a vengeful force, lifting him into the air as he thrashed against the pain. Then it appeared, high above him, a glowing pink sphere, small at first, but steadily growing. It hovered for a moment before descending slowly, as if drawn to him. It stopped just before his forehead, and then, without warning, the sphere merged into him. Everything went white. He woke up with a gasp. Lying in bed, his body felt heavy and numb, like he'd been hit by a storm. Was it a dream, he thought? But something deep inside told him otherwise. He had awakened, something. He sat up, gazing out the window as memories and history flooded his thoughts. It had been 100 years since countless dimensional portals opened across Earth. Savage monsters had poured through, pushing humanity to the brink of extinction. People ran, helpless. But in the midst of this despair, some began to awaken powers, abilities fueled by the same dimensional energy that poured through those portals. Those first gifted ones stood tall against the threat, ushering in the era of talents. A knock interrupted his thoughts. His sister's voice called out, asking if he had awakened. He looked down at his hand, where a strange stone hummed. It sparked, lightning shot from it with a crack. His eyes widened. A talent, but a low-level one, he realized bitterly. Low-level talents are practically worthless, he muttered. But then he clenched his fists. Even so, if I can't become a warrior, how will I protect my little sister? The door opened. His sister walked in, cheerful and excited. So? How did it go? She asked, her hands clasped together. He put on a grin. Excellent, he said. Her eyes lit up with joy. I knew it. My big brother is the best. He ruffled her hair and smiled. Don't worry, I'll become the strongest warrior, just wait. She bounced in happiness. I even made your favorite. Let's eat to celebrate. She turned to leave just as something strange appeared before him, a floating window, digital and glowing. He stared in disbelief. Status window, cultivation talent, low-level freezing talent, low-level, unawakened, what, he whispered, tapping the screen. It flickered and shifted to a new page. Name, Yesine talent, copy ability, locked, his heart skipped. Copy ability? His sister tugged his hand, pulling him toward the kitchen. Come on. It's getting cold. As she held his hand, a faint pink glow surrounded her palm. More system windows appeared before Yesine, this time, showing her status. And then, something incredible, a message next to her talents read, copyable. He blinked in shock. I can copy other people's talents? He didn't know how it worked yet, but the option was there. This changed everything. At the kitchen table, the aroma of braised pork filled the air. I made your favorite, she said proudly. He smiled, thanked her, and sat down. She kept piling food onto his plate while he thought deeply. Copying talents, that's incredible. But I can't try it on her. Her freezing talent is extremely rare. If she fully awakens, she'll be unstoppable. He chewed quietly, eyes drifting to the family photos behind her. Their parents smiled back at him from the frame. Mom. Dad, if you're watching us, I promise, I'll protect her. You don't have to worry anymore. Later, the sky was clear as Yesine walked through the nearly empty streets. He needed to test his ability. He approached a passerby. Circular waves pulsed out from him like sonar. Low-level talents. Everyone around him had them. Too weak, he thought, frowning. I need someone stronger, at least average level. At this rate, it's useless. Still, even with a low-level awakening, he could now roam freely and search. He thought about joining the academy for official testing, but if people found out about his copying ability, things could get complicated. Then, a smile crept onto his face. He had a better idea. Yesine raised his head and stepped toward the gates of 5th Len High Academy. As Yesine stood silently, his gaze fixed on the bustling gate, he watched the armored warriors rushing about. He studied one of them intently, imagining how many among them must possess average talents. A small smile crept onto his face, because with his unique ability, he was sure that no matter how talented they were, he would one day surpass them all. 10 days later, Training Ground No. 3, Lanai 5th Academy. The shouts echoed across the field. To become a warrior, one must first become a disciple. And to become a disciple, physical training is the foundation. A middle-aged instructor sat cross-legged on the ground, addressing the young trainees. Yesen, along with the others, listened closely. The instructor stressed a key principle: the exercise was successful only if one could concentrate the energy vortex at chest level. Suddenly, a student next to Yesen called out. The boy next to him had fainted. The instructor stood up immediately, his tone cold. He ordered everyone to ignore the weak ones. Only those who could gather energy had any chance of becoming true warriors. Yesen sat deep in thought. Why am I failing? He wondered. Could it be that my cultivation talent really is that low? The day ended with disappointment. The teacher dismissed them harshly, claiming they were the worst batch of students he had ever trained. Before leaving, he mocked them one last time, telling them to take inspiration from Chen Dong if they wanted to stop being pathetic. Dripping with sweat, Yesen walked alongside Jiang Bi through the academy grounds. Curious, Yesen asked who Chen Dong was. Jiang Bi's expression turned serious. Chen Dong had become a disciple in just half a month and was now being trained personally by the academy head. That revelation sparked something in Yesen. If that's the case, then my talent can't be so low after all. Jiang Bi suddenly grinned and pulled out a slip of paper, Chen Dong's autograph. Proudly, he said he would sell it when Chen Dong became as powerful as the academy leader, curious to see how much it would fetch. Yesen could only chuckle awkwardly in response. Just then, a wave of excitement rippled through the crowd. Chen Dong has arrived, someone shouted. The young prodigy entered, waving and smiling. Students rushed toward him. Jiang Bi hurried forward, asking for another autograph. Yesen, watching closely, smirked. Time to confirm something. He activated his ability, eyes fixed on Chen Dong. A status window appeared, average cultivation talent. Yesen's smile widened. As I thought. He walked up to the boy, pretending to greet him. Chen Dong told everyone to calm down. He had come to cheer them on, not hand out signatures. Yesen stepped forward. Then, can I at least shake your hand? Chen Dong agreed, first shaking hands with a few girls, wishing each of them good luck. Finally, he turned to Yesen and extended his hand. Their palms met. A faint pink glow shimmered at the point of contact. Good luck, Chen Dong said with a smile. As he walked away, Yesen watched him leave, grinning slyly. That night a heavy rain fell, drenching the forest. Yesen stared at the status window. The text glowed clearly, mid-level cultivation talent successfully copied. The system prompted him, start fusion. But Yesen hesitated. He remembered the vision. The pain. The lightning. That agonizing scream. What happens after fusion? Even with the fear, he made his choice. Start fusion. Power surged through his body. Agony followed. Yesen fell to the ground, gripping his chest, screaming in pain. His fingers clawed at the earth as if trying to anchor himself to reality. He was determined. This pain, it's worth it. Thunder cracked. Rain poured. Eventually, the storm in his body subsided. He panted, soaked in sweat. The status window flickered back, mid-level talent acquired. A grin formed on his lips. He had done it. His cultivation level had risen. But before he could relax, another message appeared, copy ability cooldown, 30 days. Yesen blinked. A month until he could copy again? He smiled. That's more than enough. This ability is terrifying. With that thought, he sat cross-legged and began the training exercise again. The vortex formed easily this time. It swirled at his chest, and his hair rose slightly from the force. He stood up, more confident than ever. Stepping out of the cave, he looked out into the wilderness. In the distance, lightning curled through the sky. I will become a great warrior, he thought. No matter what. 1 month later, under the light of a full white moon, a swift shadow darted across the ground, a white wolf bounding effortlessly through the forest. Its fangs gleamed as it sprinted. Elsewhere, a small girl held her father's hand. Papa, what's for dinner? She asked sweetly. The man smiled. Whatever my darling wants. As Yesen walked through the academy, he reflected. He had made progress, but he still had a long journey ahead. Meanwhile, the father and daughter wandered off in another direction, talking about cooking fish once he returned. Yasin was still thinking about how Changdong was receiving one-on-one training directly from the head of the academy, making his progress much faster than others. Lost in thought, Yasin was suddenly jolted back to reality. A stream of blood shot up in the air like a scarlet fountain. A lantern crashed to the ground with a dull crack. A man nearby had been attacked by a monstrous beast. Alarmed, Yasin turned around just in time to see the blood and the chaos that followed. The monster pinned the bleeding man down onto the asphalt with its massive paw. A girl, tears streaming from her eyes, called out desperately to her father. The monstrous wolf growled, steam gushing from its mouth. Yasin froze. Panic spread among the bystanders. They turned to flee, shouting that a monster had killed a man. But even amidst the panic, Yasin's eyes remained fixed on the terrifying creature. For some reason, the girl didn't run. Instead, she stood frozen, watching as the wolf devoured her father. The monster's face was stained with blood, and just then, another noise stirred the air. The wolf shifted its attention toward the girl. Before the beast could pounce, Yasin dashed forward and snatched her away from the wolf's paws. Fear gripped him. The monster was too fast, and he feared they wouldn't escape. At that critical moment, a man suddenly descended onto the battlefield, landing heavily enough to crack the ground beneath him. Though the monster dodged his initial blow, the newcomer wasted no time and attacked again. Stone chips scattered as the battle raged. The monster crouched low, its eyes glowing a menacing scarlet, preparing to pounce. The man, frowning, apologized for the delay. Yasin asked him who he was. The man replied with a grin, "Everyone calls me Captain Windwolf." Turning back to the battle, Captain Windwolf told Yasin to leave the Silver Moon Wolf to him and focus on protecting the girl. Yasin nodded without hesitation. With a sharp whistle of his sword cutting through the air, Captain Windwolf charged. The man and the wolf clashed fiercely. Yasin quickly covered the girl's eyes with his hand, urging her not to look at the horror unfolding. Captain Windwolf shouted that the monster was stronger than he anticipated. Though he swung his sword with precision, the wolf's nimbleness allowed it to dodge again and again. Gritting his teeth, the captain fought relentlessly. But he wasn't alone. Reinforcements arrived, leaping down from above. The wolf snarled furiously at the newcomers, but realizing it was now outnumbered, it attempted to flee. The warriors attacked in unison, cornering the beast. As Captain Windwolf got into position again, he ordered his men to press the attack. Swords stained with blood flashed in the dim light as they fought. One warrior approached the fallen wolf cautiously, asking if the creature was dead. But the wolf's claw twitched. Captain Windwolf frowned. Suddenly, the wolf screamed, entering a furious state known as the Bloody Flash. At once, the warriors jumped back, but not fast enough. One was hit. Captain Windwolf cursed under his breath but kept his composure. Though the wolf was dangerous, he reassured his men that it had weakened. Turning to Yasin, he instructed him to quickly get the girl to safety. However, Yasin's eyes gleamed with a different thought. He saw an opportunity he couldn't ignore. With a determined grin, Yasin launched himself into the fray, shocking the captain. Yasin swung his fist with all his strength, punching the monster. Another strike followed, and just then, the system window appeared in front of him. It reported, "Talent successfully copied." But Yasin didn't stop. He kept attacking fiercely, even as the system repeatedly confirmed the successful copying of the monster's talents. Blow after blow, Yasin hammered down on the wolf until, finally, the monster lay lifeless. Raising his fist for one last strike, Yasin was intercepted by Captain Windwolf, who firmly told him to stop. The monster was already dead. Satisfied, Yasin withdrew his hands from the creature. The captain instructed his squad to clean up the battlefield, remove the corpses, and take care of the girl. Then, turning to Yasin, he thanked him for his bravery and offered him a future place among the warriors once he officially became one. Yasin beamed with pride. Night fell over the city. Deep silence enveloped the streets as Yasin washed the blood from his hands in a public restroom. He thought about not showing himself to Yayo in such a state. After taking a deep breath, Yasin began the walk home. When he quietly opened the door to his house, he paused. Yayo was asleep on the couch, murmuring softly about her brother and smiling in her sleep. Relieved, Yasin smiled gently. His eyes fell on the set dinner table. He thought back to today, the first day he had faced a real monster. Walking over to Yayo, he gently covered her with a blanket, the weight of the day's event still fresh in his mind. After covering his sister carefully, Yasin shivered. Listening to tales of monsters had been chilling, but seeing them firsthand was hundreds of times worse. Gazing at his sister's peaceful face, he made a firm decision. For her safety, he had to become a warrior as soon as possible. Later that night, Yesen returned to his room, a towel in hand. Sitting heavily on the bed, he couldn't shake off a growing curiosity. Could a monster's talent be merged into a human's body? As he pondered, a familiar system window popped up before him. Yesen stared intently at the display, realizing that attempting this might be even more painful than before, possibly even fatal. But if it meant he could protect those dear to him, he had no choice. The system showed the Silver Moon Wolf's talent. Gritting his teeth with resolve, Yesen stuffed the towel into his mouth and bit down hard. The moment he initiated the copy process, excruciating pain tore through his body. The system announced the start of the speed talent transfer, and immediately, Yesen collapsed to the floor, veins bulging across his arms from the overwhelming agony. His bones felt like they were shattering one by one. Then came a horrifying twist, his leg bent unnaturally. Yesen let out a silent scream, his mind clouded with despair. Had the copying process failed? Blood red filled his vision, and just before losing consciousness, his final thought was of his sister, Yayo. When morning came, sunlight spilled into the room. Yesen stirred, finding himself sprawled across the floor. Jolting awake, he quickly checked his body, fear still gripping him. Swinging his leg, he felt a rush of power surge through him, his body lighter than a feather. To his amazement, the status window confirmed it. He now possessed a basic level speed talent. The copying had succeeded. Some time later, at the 5th Academy, a red blur streaked across the open training grounds. It was Yesen, his speed now matching that of a beast. Leaping over trees effortlessly and landing from heights without injury, he felt invincible. As he caught a falling leaf mid-air before it could touch the ground, Yesen marveled at the agility he had gained from the Silver Moon Wolf. After another session of testing his abilities, he sat down to meditate. Energy swirled around his chest, but he knew one truth clearly: though his speed was impressive, he still lacked strength. Deep in thought about how to improve further, he was suddenly interrupted. "Hey! I couldn't find you anywhere," shouted Zhang Bao, a fellow academy student and Yesen's friend. Zhang Bao inspected him closely, poking at his chest and joking, "You're getting stronger. Already a disciple now." Then, in a whisper, Zhang Bao asked if Yesen knew the secret to becoming even stronger in a short time. Curious, Yesen pressed him for the answer. Smiling slyly, Zhang Bao revealed it: monster blood. Monster blood, he said, could boost one's growth dramatically. Hearing this, Yesen's mind raced. He regretted not keeping the Silver Moon Wolf's blood and considered it a cruel loss. But Zhang Bao had more to share. There was a way to obtain monster blood legally. He explained that the academy had secretly set up a zone outside the city where exams involving hunting monster subspecies took place. The beasts there were weaker, their pure lines destroyed long ago. The idea was tempting, and after a bit more prodding, Zhang Bao invited Yesen to join his team. For a moment, Yesen hesitated. Working with others could risk exposing his copy ability. In the end, he politely declined. It was safer to go alone. A month later, at the 5th Academy, the principal was fuming inside his office. Flexing his fingers in rage, he growled that since they hadn't officially sent an exam invitation, there was no reason for anyone to register. Glaring at Yesen, who stood proudly before him, the principal's patience wore thin. But Yesen, shining with confidence, declared that as a student, he had every right to participate. The principal, smirking madly, threw a piece of paper at him, a death waiver contract. Without hesitation, Yesen bent down, picked it up, and signed it after reading every clause carefully. "If you're scared of dying, leave now," the principal shouted angrily. Yesen met his gaze coldly, then silently turned and left the office. A grin played on his lips as he walked down the corridor, his signed death waiver lying on the principal's desk behind him. Watching him leave, the principal muttered darkly, "They really think this will be an ordinary exam. Fools. They tell all regret it." Meanwhile, back at home, Yayo had just woken up. She yawned widely, stretching before heading to the kitchen, calling out for her brother. There, on the table, she found 3 plates of delicious food and a small note hidden under the salt shaker. Reading it, her heart sank slightly. It said that an important event had begun at the academy and that Yesen would return in 3 days. Holding the note tightly, Yayo whispered to herself, hoping that her brother would be safe. Elsewhere, in a ruined city shrouded in desolation, crows with glowing red eyes circled the sky. The ruins were surrounded by barbed wire, and inside, a large square had been cleared. Flags from all 5 academies fluttered in the wind. Gathered under the banner of the 5th Academy, Yesen and Jangbal surveyed the other participants. "There are so many people here," Yesen remarked in surprise. "Of course," Jangbal replied, hefting a massive axe onto his shoulder. "All 5 academies are participating." Among the crowd stood a man with long black hair and a sinister smile, Mosab, the genius of the 1st Academy. Next to him, a hulking man in a formal suit sneered, muttering that weaklings could be hunted during the exam, and that the fewer participants left, the better. Jangbal pointed Mosab out to Yesen, explaining, "He's the strongest of the younger generation in the Mo family." Watching Mosab from the corner of his eye, Yesen felt a twinge of tension in the air. This exam would be far deadlier than anyone expected. After understanding the reason behind such overwhelming arrogance from a single person, the protagonist's thoughts were interrupted by the sharp sound of a sword striking the ground. A man radiating a strong magical aura was approaching Shabe, who immediately shouted at him to stop and demanded to know who dared to draw a sword here, right in front of the 1st Academy. The newcomer halted, lifting his head with pride and shouting furiously for Shabe to come forward. A chilling, ominous smile curved on his lips. Recognizing him, Shabe sneered, asking if it was him again, reminding the man that he had already defeated him 10 times before, and wondered if he was still not tired of losing. The man responded with a wide, crazed smile, and the surrounding birds, sensing the heavy tension in the air, flapped loudly into the sky. The protagonist, surprised, turned toward Shabe and asked who this man was. A bit tense, Jangbal answered, explaining that the swordsman was Li Yanxi, a genius of the 2nd Academy, who, despite his talents, had lost multiple times to Shabe in the past. Meanwhile, the director of the 1st Academy, filled with rage, spat on the ground and shouted, wondering where such fools came from. His face was contorted with veins bulging from anger, his eyes burning with hatred and disdain, as if detached from reality itself. Folding his arms across his chest, he barked at the two to stop quarreling. Witnessing this, the protagonist clenched his teeth in anger. In his heart, he thought that the director himself was the one most detached from reality. Unexpectedly, the director raised his hands high and began cheering loudly for Yanxi, shocking everyone around. Yanxi, hearing the sudden support, grew confused and glanced at the cheering man, questioning silently who he was and why he was siding with him over Shabe. Suddenly, a booming voice from a giant loudspeaker reminded everyone that fighting outside the wilderness area was prohibited and violators would be immediately disqualified. Enraged, Yanxi cursed that Shabe had gotten lucky this time. Twirling his sword skillfully in his hands, he then sheathed it with expert precision, glaring at Shabe with eyes full of contempt. With a mad grin, Shabe laughed darkly, vowing to teach Yanxi a lesson once they entered the wilderness. As the tension settled, Yanxi turned to the protagonist. Hands on his hips, he remarked that he admired the bravery it took to cheer him on against Shabe. With a smirk, he ordered the protagonist to introduce himself. Calmly and confidently, the protagonist gave his name, mentioning he was from the 5th Academy. At that moment, the atmosphere around them shimmered mysteriously, and a system window appeared before the protagonist. It revealed Yanxi's stats. His cultivation talent was low, and his swordsmanship talent was rated as average. Despite this, the protagonist's eyes lit up. In his mind, he thought that while Yanxi's cultivation was low, his swordsmanship was decent enough. Smiling brightly, he extended his hand towards Yanxi, wishing him success in surpassing Shabe during the exam. Yanxi, surprised by the genuine encouragement, smiled warmly and shook his hand firmly. In return, he wished the protagonist good luck, urging him to survive the trials ahead. The handshake was strong, filled with mutual respect. At that very moment, a system notification popped up. The protagonist had successfully copied the swordsmanship talent. Minutes later, the loudspeaker's announcement echoed again. The exam was about to begin. Two gatekeepers moved towards the enormous gates, preparing to open them. The loudspeaker called for the 1st Academy students to proceed first. Without delay, the gates opened, and the 1st Academy students rushed in, Shabe leading the way, accompanied by his bodyguard, his expression confident and determined. Watching them, Jangbal smiled and commented that the real test had finally begun. With a quick farewell, he dashed towards his own team, calling out to the protagonist to stay safe. The protagonist shouted back his thanks, and just then, Yanxi stretched casually and loosened his joints. He mentioned that the 1st Academy would enter first, followed by the 2nd, and finally the 5th Academy. Waving his hand, he wished the protagonist good luck and left to join his own team. Now alone, the protagonist gazed into the distance, his eyes burning with determination. Without wasting time, he dashed into the dense forest, moving swiftly without hesitation. His face remained calm and emotionless as he weaved through the trees with great speed. After a short while, he landed in a small clearing. Tossing his backpack aside, he thought to himself that this spot would be perfect. Waving his hand in the air, he summoned the system screen. A new message appeared. The intermediate swordsmanship talent had been successfully copied. A prompt appeared, asking whether he wanted to initiate the fusion. With a sharp glint in his eyes, the protagonist selected yes without hesitation. Instantly, his hand swelled, veins bulging as intense pain shot through his arm. Trembling from the agony, he gritted his teeth and thought that while it was painful, it was slightly more bearable compared to before. He was adapting, slowly but surely. Dropping to his knees and bracing himself on all fours, he reminded himself he had to become stronger, no matter the cost. Powerful magic energy burst into the sky from his body as he endured. When he finally stood, his closed eyes snapped open, burning with a fiercer light than before. Without delay, he fell into a practiced stance and unleashed a series of sharp, powerful sword strikes. The trees in front of him, and even those beyond, were sliced cleanly, falling to the ground one after another. Satisfied with the results, the protagonist checked his system window again. Intermediate swordsmanship talent had been officially added. Sheathing his sword and shouldering his backpack, he marched forward, eyes blazing with determination. Meanwhile, the loudspeaker blared once more. The first groups had entered the zone. The Fifth Academy's turn was next. As the protagonist treaded carefully along the forest road, he moved silently, every step measured, fully prepared for the challenges that awaited him ahead. Continuing the fierce exam battles, Yesun walked forward with his head lowered, deep in thought. But suddenly, a glowing tentacle crept up silently behind him. Alert, Yesun immediately caught the sound from behind. Turning slightly, he saw a massive dragon with glowing eyes and razor-sharp fangs rising into the sky. Without a moment's hesitation, Yesun pulled out his sword. His eyes held no fear, only unwavering focus, as he faced the colossal beast. The dragon hissed, preparing to attack, but Yesun was faster. He leaped high into the air, cutting through the distance between them in an instant. Hovering before the open jaws of the giant monster, Yesun swung his sword, gathering momentum behind his back. In the next heartbeat, he cleaved the dragon-like snake cleanly into two halves. His face remained calm and composed, betraying no emotion. As the monster's body convulsed on the ground, Yesun landed lightly, approaching the severed head. Without hesitation, he plunged his sword into the creature's eye, then carefully extracted a massive eyeball. Holding it up, he smirked slightly and said, +1 point in the piggy bank. Placing the eye into his backpack, Yesun commented that the monster was surprisingly weak. After a brief pause, he reminded himself of the exam rules. The more beasts one killed, the higher their rank. Wondering aloud how many more he needed to pass, he glanced at the preliminary rewards list. First place promised the blood of a mid-level monster and a reward of 100,000 U, while 10th place would only offer the blood of a low-level creature. Exhaling heavily, Yesun secured his backpack and muttered that he still had a long road ahead. Without wasting another second, he jumped high, moving forward with renewed determination. No matter what, he thought, it's time to start hunting bigger prey. Suddenly, a loud, desperate cry for help pierced the air. Speeding forward, Yesun caught the sound and instinctively turned his head. What he saw made him stop. From a rooftop, he observed monsters closing in around a young man wielding an axe. The ground behind him was littered with the corpses of his comrades. Yesun immediately recognized him, his friend, Zhang Bao, trembling with fear and shouting that it was too early for him to die, especially before marriage. Large wolves with burning eyes encircled Zhang Bao, closing in with deadly intent. In a panic, Zhang Bao dropped his weapon and fled, but a wolf lunged toward him. Seeing the dire situation, Yesun moved swiftly. Pulling an arrow from his quiver, he readied his bow and released it with impeccable speed. The arrow found its mark, piercing the wolf and sending it crashing lifeless to the ground. Zhang Bao, shocked, turned just in time to see Yesun appear before him. Overwhelmed with relief, Zhang Bao asked if helping him in exchange for points was acceptable. Fearful but trusting, he recognized his friend and savior. Yet before they could speak further, Zhang Bao screamed, warning Yesun that he couldn't handle the fanged wolves. Terror etched deep into his face, cold sweat dripping. Zhang Bao tried to retreat, but Yesun only smiled, an unsettling, confident smile, as powerful magical energy surged around him. In a flash, Yesun activated his speed talent, his figure becoming a blur as he tore through the pack of wolves. None could touch him. When he halted, the monsters lunged from all sides. Calmly, Yesun gripped his sword, his body radiating violent energy and his eyes burning with scarlet flames. Activating his sword talent, Yesun moved like a whirlwind, cutting down every beast in his path. Blood sprayed through the air, and within moments, silence fell. The ground was littered with the remains of the wolves, and at the center stood Yesun, untouched. From the sidelines, Zhang Bao could only whisper in awe, "Wow." After a few minutes, Yesun carefully extracted something from the wolf's mouth, a large fang. Placing it into his backpack, he turned to Zhang Bao and reminded him of their deal. The points for the wolves were his. Of course. Zhang Bao agreed loudly, calling Yesun his savior. Throwing his backpack over his shoulders again, Yesun asked if Zhang Bao planned to continue. But Zhang Bao, sitting heavily on the ground, shook his head. Bitterly, he admitted that the exam was far more dangerous than he had imagined, and he was lucky just to be alive. Looking sadly at the bodies of his teammates, he insisted they needed to evacuate the wounded immediately. Yesun nodded silently, preparing to leave. But just then, Zhang Bao called out, asking him to wait. He warned Yesun about pseudo-monsters lurking deeper in the zone. Intrigued, Yesun asked for details. Zhang Bao explained that among the ranking of creatures, beasts being the weakest, pseudo-monsters next, and true monsters at the top, the pseudo-monsters were formidable enemies. Specifically, students from the First Academy were reportedly targeting a snake over 10 meters long, a known pseudo-monster. Killing one, Zhang Bao added, would award 500 points. At this, a wild, excited grin spread across Yesun's face. His eyes gleamed with fierce determination. Rushing up to Zhang Bao, he grabbed him by the shoulders and shouted, asking where this monster was. Pointing southeast, Zhang Bao directed him. Without wasting another second, Yesun turned and saw that direction shrouded in intense magical energy. Igniting his speed skill once more, he blasted off, leaving a cloud of dust behind him. His body radiated vibrant purple energy as he raced forward. 500 points don't come easy, he muttered to himself. But if I get them, first place will definitely be mine. Watching his friend disappear into the distance, Zhang Bao shouted after him, "Take care of yourself, Yesun." Meanwhile, Yesun pressed on, moving at blinding speed, a purple trail of energy streaming behind him, fully intent on claiming his next prize. As the chaos from the previous battle echoed in the distance, the protagonist dashed across the cracked ground. With a thunderous stomp, his body propelled forward, covering an incredible distance in mere seconds. The wind howled past him as he approached an old, fractured bridge. But then, out of the corner of his eye, something caught his attention. He skidded to a sharp halt, dust rising beneath his feet. His sharp gaze landed on a field not far ahead. Dozens of lifeless bodies were scattered across the ground. He stepped forward cautiously, his expression darkening. These uniforms. First Academy students, he muttered, eyes narrowing. Boom! A sudden explosion lit up the horizon to his right. Flames roared into the sky, and the shockwave rattled the surroundings. Looking at the blast site, he clenched his jaw. So, you really here, he whispered coldly. Without wasting another second, he launched himself high into the air. In an instant, he landed atop a half-collapsed building overlooking the chaos. Crouching low, he scanned the battlefield below. Students of the First Academy were locked in a brutal fight, their attacks focused on a monstrous figure. Then he saw it. A massive, snake-like creature, its scales glistening under the firelight, roared with bloodlust. Is that all the pseudo-monster? Yesun wondered, his breath catching for a moment. From below, a voice rang out. Forward, everyone! Shay bellowed, his sword gleaming as he pointed at the creature. This beast's points are mine. With a battle cry, Shay charged, swinging his sword directly at the monster's hide, but the blade merely bounced off. His bodyguard followed up with relentless strikes. Master, its stamina is dropping fast. The guard shouted, Now's our chance. The snake reared its ugly head and let out a thunderous scream. Shay grinned madly. Then I'll finish this, he roared, bursting off the ground. He soared toward the monster, sword held back like a spear ready to pierce. The snake opened its massive mouth to retaliate, but Shay was faster. Slash! The blade sank deep into the creature's forehead. Blood spurted out and the snake writhed violently. Ha! Got you! Shay grinned wildly, forcing the blade deeper. His eye sparkled with savage glee. But, wham! The snake's tail smashed into him with a violent swing, launching him through the air like a missile. He slammed into a crumbled building wall, creating a crater on impact. Dust cleared. Slowly, he raised his head, chuckling despite the pain. TCH. 500 points. Still mine, he muttered, smirking. From above, the protagonist observed quietly. If only I'd arrived a bit earlier, he said to himself, clenching his fist in frustration. Meanwhile, Shay stood again, brushing dust from his coat. He punched a nearby boulder in triumph, sending it flying. His bodyguard bowed. Congratulations, master. Shay threw his hands up. First place belongs to me now, he yelled triumphantly. But the snake's body began to twitch violently. Its skin darkened, glowing with an eerie light. Burning eyes snapped open. It rose again, taller than before, its fury bursting outward like a shockwave. The air turned heavy with dread. Why is it still alive? One student cried in panic. The snake's tail lashed out, sending students flying like rag dolls. Shay and his guard jumped back, regaining stances. No way did it enter a bloody flash state. Shay thought, sweat forming on his brow. The monster shot into the sky, slithering through the air with unnatural speed. That's no pseudo-monster. Shay shouted, voice cracking. That's a full-fledged one. Gasps echoed around him. Do we chase it? A student hesitated. Of course we do. Shay yelled. That thing's worth 1,000 points. 1,000, the group repeated, stunned. Then, in unison, they bolted after the snake, their competitive fire reignited. In his mind, Shay calculated, it's weak, that last hit did damage. We have to catch it before others do, or this whole battle was for nothing. From above, Yasin remained still, aura flickering around him. 1,000-point monster, here of all places, he muttered. A twisted grin crept across his face. He turned in the direction of the chase. I'm the fastest one here. Placing his palm on the rooftop, he whispered to himself, let's push speed to its limit. In that instant, his aura exploded, surging like a storm. His eyes glowed with raw determination and madness. The battle had ended, and a sense of accomplishment washed over him. It's time, he thought to himself, nodding quietly. A moment later, with a determined glint in his eyes, he leaped into the air, a trail of magic shimmering behind him. In mere seconds, he soared through the sky, the wind rushing past as he pushed himself to catch up with the monster. The snake, large and agile, slithered across the terrain, leaving a streak of purple mucus in its wake. It rushed toward a broken, desolate building, clearly intent on hiding there. But the main character was quick to follow. He spotted the trail left behind on the ground, and with a swift landing, he slammed into the earth with a resounding crash. His eyes narrowed as he inspected the trail, realizing it was still fresh. The students from the first academy hadn't arrived yet. Good. Crouching, he dipped a finger into the mucus, bringing it to his face. Definitely not water, he thought, grimacing. It hadn't been there long. As he stood and gazed toward the ruined structure before him, he couldn't help but smile. Looks like I'll be getting 1,000 points today. With renewed energy, he entered the building, his presence filling the air. The oppressive energy of the monster was palpable, swirling through the space. His own energy surged to meet it, and as he moved forward, he felt its intensity growing. It's close, he thought, his senses sharpened. Then, the unexpected happened. His breath hitched as he spotted the massive snake. It was hunched beneath a dripping ceiling, its huge mouth open, catching drops of liquid as they slowly gathered and dripped into its maw. The sight was unsettling. What was it drinking? The liquid didn't look like ordinary water. His face hardened, and without hesitation, he unsheathed his sword. The air crackled with energy as his aura flared. Standing in a combat stance, he smirked. I'll deal with this mystery later. First, I've got points to earn. He lunged, his body shooting forward with explosive force. A small shockwave erupted beneath him as he charged toward the snake. The creature, sensing the attack, retaliated instantly, swinging its colossal arm in an effort to crush him. Shocked, the protagonist dodged, but the snake's strike sent a wave of destruction through the ground. The blow hit with enough force to send him tumbling backward. But he was far from out of control. Midair, he grabbed his bow, pulling it out in a fluid motion. He had only a second. He notched 3 arrows, his aim steady as he soared toward the ground. The first 2 arrows shot out, piercing the monster's eyes. A burst of blood spurted from the wounds, and the snake howled in pain, thrashing wildly. Landing with precision, the protagonist's blade, lost in the earlier exchange, flew toward him. In an instant, his hand closed around the hilt. He grinned fiercely. Now, let's finish this. He sprinted up the snake's arm, his sword cutting through flesh with ease. The creature screamed in agony as blood sprayed from the wound, and veins began to bulge along the protagonist's arm. His face twisted with effort, but he didn't stop. With a final, powerful strike, he cleaved the monster's arm, causing it to falter. The snake convulsed, thrashing its tail in every direction as it slowly collapsed to the ground, dead. The protagonist stood over the fallen creature, breathing heavily. That was close. If Shab's group hadn't weakened it first, I wouldn't have stood a chance. Grinning, he took off his backpack and glanced up at the shard in the ceiling, from which the strange liquid continued to drip. No time for questions right now, he decided, pulling out a bottle from his pack. Whatever this stuff is, the snake was here for it. That means it's valuable. With the bottle positioned beneath the dripping shard, he waited for the liquid to fill it. As it did, he stood, glancing down at the corpse of the monster. Without hesitation, he approached it, his sword still in hand. With a practice motion, he drove the blade into the snake's head and sat upon its massive body, carefully extracting its eyes. This was one hell of a fight, he thought. But there was still more to be done. A few minutes later, Yesen held the enormous eyeball of the slain monster in his hand. He muttered to himself, "This will serve as proof of murder." He then moved toward the massive heart of the snake. Piercing it with his weapon, he marveled, the blood from this monster's heart is incredibly valuable. Green blood gushed from the wound, and Yesen quickly placed a bottle beneath it to collect the liquid. A few moments later, after finishing his task, he glanced at the bottle, now filled with the unknown liquid. With a smirk, he muttered, "This should be enough." However, as he gazed upward at the source of the dripping, he felt a growing uncertainty. No idea what this stuff is. But it'll be useful. With a brief pause, Yesen drew his sword and, in a grim tone, stated, "Not a drop should be left for Sheeb." Without hesitation, he sliced the rock hanging from the ceiling, and the spring of blood fell to the ground. The battle with the monster was over, and it was time to move on. Opening his backpack, Yesen began packing away the collected materials. "The points I've earned should be enough for first place," he said, looking over his shoulder with a malicious grin. "It's time to get out of here." Hours passed. The body of the dead monster was discovered by students from the First Academy. After carefully examining the enormous snake, they reported that its eyeballs had been removed, and the blood from its heart had been pumped out. Sheep, the bodyguard, turned to his master, his hands shaking with anger. "There's nothing left but a corpse," he yelled. "What do we do now?" With a glare that could kill, Sheep asked through gritted teeth, "Who dares steal my 1,000 points?" His fists clenched in fury. Meanwhile, the sky above the city had turned crimson from the sunset. Raindrops splattered against the surfaces of nearby buildings. Yesen crouched down, leaning his hand against the wet stone. He opened his eyes wide, noticing a group of brightly dressed individuals walking through the rubble. Among them, a man in a dark suit stood tall, commanding the others. One of the men observed, "The person who stole the master's victory points must be hiding somewhere. We need to find him." A tall man in a black suit walked behind the youth, asking, "What do we do now?" The leader of the group froze, his eyes glowing with energy as lightning crackled around him. "We search everyone. We meet along the way," he ordered. "This little rat cannot escape." Yesen, watching from the rooftop of a nearby building, frowned. He needed to hide. Bright, crackling energy surrounded his body as he zipped forward through the half-ruined streets, leaving flashes of lightning in his wake. Leaping over broken stone beams, Yesen soared through the air, momentarily stopping to observe the group below. He had to act fast. The exam would end in 3 days, and when the points were tallied, it would be clear that he had killed the monster. On the ground, the protagonist's foot splashed into the wet pavement as he walked along the empty road. The ruined buildings loomed around him. "I need to make the most of this time," he thought. "I'll use this shelter to improve my cultivation talent and become stronger." Yesen dropped his bag onto the floor and assumed a lotus position, holding a glass bottle filled with the monster's blood. "How much will this strengthen me?" he pondered. Without hesitation, he threw his head back and drank the contents. His face twisted in disgust. "Should have packed some peanuts for this," he muttered. Squeezing the bottle in his hand, he reminded himself, for my sister's safety, I need to get stronger. As the energy coursed through him, bright lights surrounded his body. Yesen's eyes opened wide. This is incredible, he thought. The cultivation speed is 4 times faster. Meanwhile, back at school, Yayo, sitting at her desk, sneezed loudly. Anyone remember me? She mused, rubbing her nose. I hope everything's fine with my brother. Yesen's hands crackled with energy as he felt the power flowing through him. His clothes fluttered from the rising energy. No wonder Changdong and the others cultivate so fast. It's not just talent. They're using auxiliary items. With 2.5 days left, Yesen knew he had to use every moment wisely. I've only got a short time to prepare, he thought. I need to make these points count. 3 days passed, and the day of reckoning arrived. The heroes gathered around tables, where a black banner stood, marking the end of the exam. Yayo stood up and began recording the data. Zhang scored 10 points, B scored 23 points, Zoe 0 points, she announced. Yesen stood confidently at the table, a mischievous smile playing on his lips. His hand went out in front of him as he asked the teacher, could you help me with the calculation? In his bag, brightly shining stones glowed, a testament to the effort he'd put in. The girl raised her eyebrows as she announced that the guy had earned 195 points. The boys around her gritted their teeth and frowned, muttering that this was very impressive. Just then, Sheeb appeared, carrying a bag and grinning, saying that those points were nothing compared to his own. Behind him followed a bodyguard dressed in a sharp black suit. The guy in the red jacket stepped forward, shaking his head in surprise. I didn't expect Yangzi to be so strong, he muttered. Sheeb smirked, his eyes gleaming as he asked, are you really planning to compete with me with such a measly number of points? Yangzi frowned, clearly frustrated. This guy's up to his old tricks again, he grumbled. Sheeb smiled maliciously, pulling out a heap of jewelry from his backpack. Go ahead, count them, he challenged. The girl's eyes widened in shock as she announced, Sheeb has earned 427 points. The boy beside her frowned, his voice rising as he shouted, no surprise there. He's always been the hero. The girl raised her hand to her face, whispering to herself, that's a huge gap. I only have 30 points. Yangzi pointed at Sheeb with a glare. You're a shameless fool, taking points from others, he accused. With a mock shrug, Sheeb spread his arms out wide. I earned these points thanks to my own talents, he replied with a smirk. The young man clenched his fists, teeth grinding. You're a bastard, he growled. The girls approached, one of them smiling at the guy standing next to Yangzi. For so many points, you're sure to take first place, she said cheerfully. Sheeb's smile faded slightly as he muttered, first place will have over 1,000 points. The girl's eyes went wide in surprise. How is that even possible? One asked, stunned. The director of the 5th Academy, who had been observing the situation, put his hands in his pockets and asked, did all the students who survived manage to make it out? The girl adjusted her hair and raised an eyebrow. If someone didn't make it out, they are probably dead, she said matter-of-factly. The director smiled, a hint of amusement in his expression. That can only mean one thing, he said. First place goes to Sheeb. Just then, a figure emerged from the distance, slowly making its way toward them. The crowd gasped in surprise. The director turned, his eyes narrowing in confusion. Yangzi, carrying a backpack, approached. Slowly, the bag seemed to pulse ominously. His eyes shone brightly, but his face was hidden in the shadow of the bag. As he drew nearer, the bag seemed to pull out strange, monstrous red eyes and sharp claws. The girl's eyes widened even further as she caught sight of the monster's eye, her heart racing. What? What is that? She whispered. Yangzi glanced at her from under his brows, a cold smirk on his lips. So, how many points do I have? He asked, his voice dripping with arrogance. The announcement came over the speakers. The protagonist, Yangzi, has earned 136 points. A hush fell over the crowd. The girl blinked, still trying to process the information, before smiling at him. Congratulations on taking first place, she said. Your reward is 3 bottles of mid-level monster blood and 100,000 yuan. Yangzi accepted the awards with a satisfied smile as the heroes around them celebrated. Jiang Bao clenched his fists, saying, this young man is amazing. Yangzi rubbed his chin in thought, clearly impressed. How did he manage to do it? He wondered aloud. Sheeb gritted his teeth, his expression turning sour. A thief has appeared, he sneered. A puppy from the 5th Academy. Yangzi narrowed his eyes, his tone turning serious. Get everything you can on him, he ordered his bodyguard. The bodyguard bowed his head, silently agreeing to the task. Jiang Bao raised an eyebrow, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Looks like Yangzi really gave them all hell. Our academy finally took first place in the exam, he said with pride. The girls, still in shock, smiled happily. We never thought something like this would happen, one of them admitted. The director, who had been quiet until now, sighed and muttered, the boy's an idiot. One of the heroes beside him raised an eyebrow. You not happy that Yangzi brought glory to the academy? He asked, puzzled. The director looked over at Yangzi, his face darkening. That's the problem, he said. He insulted and angered the Mo family. They are very strong and influential. I fear that something might happen to him. Jiang Bao closed his eyes, deep in thought. I'm worried about my friend, he admitted, a note of concern in his voice. The leaderboard flashed on the screen, showing the top 3 heroes. Yangzi, of the 5th Academy, claimed first place with 136 points. His reward was 3 bottles of mid-level monster blood and 100,000 yuan. Sheeb, from the 1st Academy, secured second place with 427 points, earning 1 bottle of mid-level monster blood and 100,000 yuan. Yi from the 2nd Academy rounded out the top 3 with 3 bottles of low-level monster blood and 50,000 yuan. The photographer asked everyone to look at the camera, and the young men smiled for the photo, with Sheeb and Yangzi posing nearby. The exam was officially over. The heroes congratulated the top 3, acknowledging their well-deserved awards. The boys stood proudly on the podium, surrounded by cheerful applause. Sheeb's face was tight with frustration as he glared at Yangzi. You brave, stealing what belongs to others, he muttered. Yangzi smirked, giving Sheeb a cold, arrogant look. It was mutual, he replied smoothly. Yangzi frowned slightly. Have you forgotten your own words? He asked, his voice cutting through the tension. Sheeb scowled, holding up a hand. Shut up, I am not talking to you, he snapped. The young man, standing confidently with his hands on his hips, added, just like Sheeb, I took those points thanks to my own talents. The hero, shaking his head, chuckled darkly. What talents? He asked, the mocking tone clear in his voice. In the ongoing story of copyability, Yen's determination was evident as he took a step forward, suggesting they settle things through battle. His eyes gleamed with an intense resolve, his face obscured by the shadow cast from his brow. He murmured to himself, if this opponent wants to test me, I'll be more than willing. Let's see what you've got. Bright streams of red and blue energy began to swirl around their bodies, a display of raw power. Sheeb, watching from the sidelines, couldn't help but smile, recognizing the rising tension in the air. This is getting more interesting, she thought to herself, eager to see how things would unfold. Meanwhile, the protagonist stood frozen, his brows furrowed. He knew the truth of his situation. If he became the target of such a dangerous person, escape would be impossible. The only solution was to grow stronger, so strong that his enemies wouldn't even dare to challenge him. But the weight of that realization settled heavily in his heart. The sunset painted the sky above the city in hues of pink, marking the end of another turbulent day. The hero reached for the door handle, his thoughts racing. Entering the house, he kicked off his shoes and called out to his younger sister, letting her know he had returned. Yayu, full of energy, rushed to hug him, her arms wrapped around him tightly. She pulled away slightly, her eyes wide with curiosity. Where have you been? You've been gone so long, she exclaimed. She stepped back and started inspecting him, checking if he was injured. Are you okay? She asked with genuine concern. Yen assured her, I'm fine, really. A smile spread across his face as he reached for his backpack. I've brought you some gifts, he said, his eyes glinting with mischief. Yayu's face lit up with excitement. What is it? What did you get me? She asked eagerly. When Yen opened the bag, a small fortune spilled out, along with a few unusual items. Whoa! Is this all for me? She gasped, her hands reaching for the cash and the bottles he pulled out. The young man placed 3 bottles of monster blood, a wad of money, and a mysterious book in front of her. Yayu couldn't believe her eyes. This is more than enough for a wedding, she said with a grin. But Yen didn't seem to share the same excitement. He sighed, sitting down on the floor. Actually, it's for you to use for your education. And pocket money. Of course. Yayu tilted her head, a curious expression on her face. Wait, does that mean I can eat meat every day now? She picked up the glass bottle with the bright liquid, examining it closely. What's this? Yen smiled slightly, picking up the book. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I got you a reference book about jewelry. Thought you might like it. Yayu's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Jewelry, she repeated. Can I see it too? As Yen flipped through the pages, his eyes widened in disbelief. Wait! This can't be real. He looked at the page before him, his mind racing. There, in front of him, was a description of a rare and potent elixir, the elixir of the Earth's core. The page described it as a liquid essence formed by terranite stones that had absorbed the energy of the heavens and earth for centuries. Drinking it could enhance one's talent for cultivation, but only if their talent was of below average level. There was also a chance that the elixir could form primordial terranite stones that could improve higher level talents. But he'd heard of them before, the very stones he had destroyed. The hero stared at the bottle in Yayu's hands, realization dawning on him. It's the elixir? It could really help her. No, it's better if she drinks it. Wait, Yayu said, her voice trembling with surprise. You want me to drink this? She looked down at the bottle in her hand, confused and unsure. But my talent hasn't even awakened yet, Yen's thoughts raced. He understood that by drinking the elixir, she'd improve her basic level of cultivation. His only concern was how much stronger she'd become. He needed her to have the strength to protect herself, even if she didn't fully understand its significance. The girl hesitated, her gaze shifting from the bottle to her brother. But? Couldn't we sell this? It's probably worth a lot of money, Yen shook his head, flipping through the book. It's not just about money. If we sell it, someone will eventually come looking for those primordial terranite stones. And they wouldn't believe our story. It could put us in danger. Yayu grinned, twirling the bottle in her hands. So you destroyed them for no reason. Yen's expression hardened as he took the bottle from her hands. It would be a pity if you didn't drink it. Trust me. Yayu's eyes widened in shock. You're really going to make me drink it, aren't you? With a firm grip, Yen squeezed her cheeks, forcing her to open her mouth. Open up, Yayu, he said gently, his voice softened by a hint of playfulness. I'm being killed. Yayu screamed, struggling against her brother's grip. The bottle was empty in an instant, its contents flowing down her throat. And just like that, the fate of the hero's sister was changed forever. The young man stood up with a smile, his curiosity piqued. What does it taste like? He asked. The girl, sitting on the sofa, cleared her throat and replied with a soft smile, it's very warm and refreshing. The young man frowned, a glimmer of confusion in his eyes. Something didn't quite add up. Was her cultivation talent still at a basic level? Maybe the book was wrong. He didn't know, but the data in the status window showed that something was off. The girl shifted slightly, her voice trailing off as she sat back, clearly feeling sleepy. I'll cook a bit later, she said, yawning. No problem, the young man assured her, his attention still on the status window. His eyes narrowed in concentration. He was trying to figure out why things weren't progressing as expected. The clock ticked on. An hour passed. The protagonist, sitting cross-legged in a meditative lotus position, was surrounded by a gentle glow as energy radiated from his body. His mind focused, but just as he was about to settle deeper into meditation, he gritted his teeth. Suddenly, the status window above the girl's head flickered into view, revealing new data. She was a human, with average cultivation talent and a low-level freezing talent that was not yet awakened. The young man's eyes widened. His own cultivation level had increased by 2 points. He needed to confirm something. He reached for a bottle of monster blood, thinking to himself, my sister will definitely become a first-class warrior. His eyes sparkled with hope as he looked at her, his resolve solidifying. He whispered mentally to Sheeb, prepare yourself. I won't let you beat me. Yin, somewhere nearby, hid his face in shadows. His red eyes gleamed ominously, reflecting a darkness that contrasted the bright night sky. He opened his mouth, pouring out the contents of a bottle. Meanwhile, the young man focused back on his food, reaching for the peanuts on his plate, the taste bitter in his mouth. He tried to ignore it. Monster blood, how many times can it speed up my progress? He thought, throwing more peanuts into his mouth. As if in answer to his question, bright streams of energy appeared around him, swirling in a vibrant dance. The hero gasped, his eyes widening in disbelief. The increase was 8 times his normal output. The energy around him flickered a brilliant pink. This is terrifying, he thought. If he had the blood of a higher-level monster, he could have broken through to the warrior stage. But there was no time to dwell on that now. He looked at the 2 remaining bottles of monster blood. Only 2 left. What will I do after these are gone? The grove near the 5th Academy was calm and serene, the trees swaying gently in the breeze. Birds chirped in the distance. 10 days had passed. A small bird perched on the head of Yasin, who was meditating on a stone ledge near the academy. Suddenly, Jiang Bi approached quickly, gritting his teeth and repeating the question that had been gnawing at him. What should we do? Yasin stopped meditating, his eyes opening as he looked at Jiang Bi. What's wrong? He asked calmly. Gasping for air, Jiang Bi leaned forward, calling out a name, Sheep. Yasin's expression grew serious. Has he come here? Jiang Bi shook his head, panting. No. He's locked himself in his room. He's planning something. He'll probably break through to the warrior stage soon, then deal with you. The young man crossed his arms, his face unreadable. So, he's waiting to challenge me after becoming a warrior. Exactly, Jiang Bi muttered, frustrated. If he breaks through, he'll crush you like a bug. Yasin raised an eyebrow. I am cultivating too. I am not afraid. Jiang Bi frowned, concern in his eyes. Sheep is noble. He has resources, and you have 3 bottles of mid-level monster blood. You've drunk them already, haven't you? Yasin gave a faint smile. Yes, that's true. Jiang Bi knelt down, his hands pressed to the ground. Then you redoomed, he said softly. As your friend, I'll help arrange the funeral. I'll take care of your sister. The young man stood still, his thoughts focused on the situation. He glanced downward, recalling that his only remaining blood came from the low-level snake and its heart. After using it, he hoped to break through to the advanced disciple stage, though that was still a far cry from becoming a warrior. Yet, something within him stirred. He was confident. The talents he had honed would be enough. Even a warrior could fall to him. At that moment, his eyes lit up. It was time to move forward. The Mo family's mansion loomed. Ahead, its imposing structure casting a shadow over the land. A dark sky hung above the estate, birds scattering in the wind. The man in a dark suit stood at the entrance, and the cracks in the stone door began to form, breaking apart as bright energy surged from the shattered pieces. A silhouette appeared in the distance. A bodyguard knelt, his hand resting on the ground. Master, he said, congratulations on reaching the warrior level. The air shifted, and the figure's eyes shone like fire, muscles rippling beneath the dark shadows. His power had grown, his transformation was complete. Above the Mo family's house, birds circled, and the tension in the air thickened. Sheep knelt respectfully, one knee on the floor, while a tall man in formal robes offered praise. Congratulations, young master, on breaking through to the warrior level, the man said solemnly. May your strength last long and your victories be many. Behind them, 2 maids gracefully dressed Sheep in a ceremonial robe, the fabric rich and dark with red lining, fitting for a newly awakened warrior. Just then, Sheep's father, Moan, entered the room. He stopped briefly, noticing his son's bowed head, and gave a small, approving nod before stepping forward. I saw it happen, Moan said proudly. You've truly become a warrior. I expected no less from my son. His voice held a mix of stern pride and fatherly satisfaction. He smiled faintly, placing a hand on Sheep's shoulder. You're doing well, he added. Sheep, though still serious, frowned slightly. Father, you don't need to worry. I won't disgrace the Mo family name. Moan's brows furrowed, but his smile remained. I know. And you should be aware your great-grandfather wishes to personally reward you. Sheep immediately dropped to one knee again. I am grateful to both of you for your support. Moan laughed softly, waving it off. No need for such formality. Stand up. With a short gesture, he turned toward the hallway and barked a quick order to the bodyguard beside him. Check the kitchen. I want to make sure everything's ready for the celebration. But then, with a slight smirk, he added, actually, never mind. I'll go check myself. Sheep tilted his head. Please don't forget to have my favorite dishes prepared. You think I'd forget? Moan scoffed. When your mother was pregnant, she craved that dish every single day. You were practically born eating it. The two shared a quiet moment before Moan left, his robe fluttering behind him. As the celebration preparations began, Sheep leaned in toward his bodyguard, voice low. Did you find out anything about that boy? he asked sharply. The man gave a crooked grin. Everything. No parents. No background. No support. He paused. Which means, we can do whatever we want. Sheep's eyes darkened. He moved to the window, placing his hands behind his back. I don't believe that, he muttered. There's someone behind him. Someone strong. Above the Mo family's white estate, the sky was a pristine blue, calm, quiet, deceptive. Sheep rubbed his chin. In that case, we send someone to eliminate him. The bodyguard blinked. Master, killing someone inside the zone is one thing. But outside? Even the Mo family can't avoid trouble if we cross that line. Sheep, now seated in a deep crimson chair, poured himself a drink. Who said we'd act as the Mo family? The bodyguard's eyes widened. Hire the dark shadow, Sheep said with a dangerous grin. No one investigates their work. But their services, they cost 1 million gold at least, the bodyguard protested. Sheep sipped slowly, unbothered. You think like a servant. Poor, cautious, hesitant. He slammed the glass down, cracking it. If a genius appears among the poor, he said coldly, eliminate him immediately. The room grew tense. The bodyguard frowned but said nothing. Sheep smiled, wide and frightening. The law of the world is simple, he declared. The strong survive. The weak die. Meanwhile, not far from the 5th Academy. Under a grey sky near a mossy stone castle, the sound of swords echoed through the trees. Lightning crackled as Yesin trained alone, his body surrounded by streaks of bright energy. He moved with such speed, it looked like multiple versions of him were sparring at once. His attacks carved lines into the very air. With a final shout, he swung his weapon, sending a flash of light slicing through a boulder. The stone shattered into tiny pieces. Yesin sighed and wiped sweat from his forehead. Well, he muttered, glancing upward, it's going to rain. And sure enough, the first drops began to fall. Cloak billowing in the wind, Yesin walked along a silent street. Rain fell in rhythmic taps on rooftops and stone. Then, he stopped. A sudden flash appeared in front of him. Floating in the air, bright even through the downpour, was a system window. Who? Yesin blinked. That's new. The golden panel glowed sharply, revealing, name, Liquin, talent for cultivation, basic shadow talent, low, unawakened. Before he could process it, the window vanished in a blink, leaving behind a blinding flash. And then, darkness surged. A stream of black energy hurtled toward him, slicing through the rain. Yesin's red eyes widened as a stranger appeared mid-air, shrouded in lightning and shadow. Reacting instantly, Yesin raised his sword and caught the attack mid-swing. Thunder exploded around them as the shockwave sent debris flying. Seriously? Yesin grunted, blocking the next strike. Can't people just say hello anymore? The clash began with a blur of motion. The enemy, Liquin, leapt back, crouching low with one hand on the ground for balance. His posture was smooth, precise, deadly. Yesin narrowed his eyes, his voice firm. Introduce yourself, he demanded. The tip of Liquin's blade gleamed under the rain as he let out a sinister chuckle and tossed his head back. I'm your death, he replied with a twisted grin. Rain pattered harder against the stone. Yesin tightened his grip on his sword. Around him, blue energy crackled and danced in streams. Liquin licked his blade, because apparently, hygiene wasn't a top priority when you're trying to be edgy. I am the end of your story, Liquin declared dramatically. But Yesin wasn't amused. A green glow shimmered behind his attacker. He could sense it now, shadow energy. He furrowed his brows. She must have sent this guy, he thought. But why hire an assassin? He's already a warrior. If he really wanted to kill me, why not come himself? The thought gnawed at him. But he didn't have time to ponder. Liquin darted forward. Yesin reacted instinctively, wind howling behind him as he dashed to meet the attack. Their blades clashed mid-air, green lightning erupting like firecrackers in the sky. Then, silence. Yesin landed and looked around. The assassin had vanished again. Only traces of green energy marked where he once stood. He's using the shadow talent, Yesin realized. He can vanish into thin air. He remained calm, eyes scanning. From the corner of his vision, something flickered, the tip of a blade, inches from the back of his head. Yesin's body tensed. In one sharp motion, he spun, narrowly dodging a bolt of green lightning. He vaulted up, landing atop a nearby roof, lightning trailing behind him. How is this guy so fast? Yesin muttered through clenched teeth. But now it was his turn. He surged forward with a flash of speed, a grin forming on his lips. Let's see how you like this. Their swords clashed again, Yasin swing tearing through the air, leaving glowing arcs. Liquin sneered, and returned the favor. Boom! The shockwave launched Yasin into a stone wall. Dust exploded outward, cracks spiderwebbing through the stone. When the debris settled, there was no sign of the enemy. He's fast, but that trick won't work forever, Yasin growled, steadying himself. Not against me. Suddenly, the air shifted. Yasin pivoted, slicing through the wind with one clean strike, and caught him. Liquin's body flew upward, blood spurting from his mouth. His eyes widened in shock. He crashed to the ground hard, struggling to breathe. This is impossible. Liquin rasped. Even elite warriors can't see me. Then I'm clearly not your average warrior, Yasin muttered, stepping forward, energy flickering around him. He towered over his fallen foe, shadows dancing across his face. Now answer me, he said, his voice cold. Who sent you? Liquin coughed, then reached for his weapon. I'll tell you when you're dead. Big mistake. Yasin's red eyes glowed as he vanished from sight. He reappeared a split second later, his blade slashing through the air. A spray of blood followed. Yasin stood behind the now motionless body of Liquin, his sword still humming from the strike. Let's try this again, he said firmly. Who sent you? Liquin's bloody lips trembled. You're the strongest disciple I've ever fought. He coughed again, barely clinging to life. It was Sheeb. And then, with the rain falling around him, the assassin breathed his last. Yasin stood still, sword lowered but eyes burning with anger. He clenched the weapon tight and whispered, Sheeb. He dropped to one knee beside the fallen body and reached toward the dissipating streams of dark energy. Suddenly, a pulse of light erupted. His eyes flashed wide. Energy enveloped him as the system window appeared once more. Shadow talent successfully copied, a swirl of dark smoke appeared beside him. He rose slowly, back still slightly bent, his aura glowing with newfound power. As the storm raged above, Yasin's face remained hidden beneath the shadow, except for his eyes, now glowing brighter than ever. The system window flickered beside him again. As the system window flickered, Yasin took in the fresh data. Talent scan, complete, improvement talent, average speed talent, low swordsmanship talent, average shadow talent, low. Yasin raised an eyebrow. So that's all it took to call himself a killer, he muttered. He lowered his gaze toward the lifeless body. Your shadow talent, it's mine now. Rain poured harder in the mountains. Lightning cut across the sky, and blood still ran from the corpse at his feet. Wordlessly, Yasin stacked several stones, forming a simple grave. He stood silently before it as the wind roared through the forest. A single leaf fluttered down, landing softly on the earth. Yasin knelt beside it. A person born in this world, he thought, shouldn't be like this leaf. Blown by the wind. Soaked by the rain. He picked up the leaf, eyes glowing faintly with resolve. I won't be weak. I'll be the wind and the rain. Not a leaf torn from its tree. He crushed the leaf in his fist and turned away from the grave, stepping into the future with quiet purpose. Later, back in the city, the clouds gathered above in thick, heavy silence. In his apartment, steam billowed from the bathroom. Yasin stood under the hot water, washing off the grime and blood. After drying his hair and slipping on a t-shirt, he padded barefoot across the wooden floor and dropped onto the couch. Home. Actually feels nice for once, he murmured. His eyes settled on the items scattered across the table. Among them, a shiny dagger, still flawless after combat, unlike his own worn-out blade. Beside it lay gold cards worth 1,000,000 and silver cards of 100,000 each, a total of 2 million. He slipped the money into his wallet, eyes narrowing. Sheeb's money, huh? I'll make sure it goes to the right cause. Then he noticed the book. Bound in dark leather, it was titled, Bronze Grade, Shadow Blade Mastery. Yasin grinned. This is exactly what I needed. He picked up the manual and moved to his room, the door shutting with a thud behind him. Thunder rumbled. Yasin opened the first chapter, but his smile faded as a chill ran down his spine. He looked out the window. Lightning flashed, and something felt wrong. His heart dropped. Why isn't my sister home yet? In a flash, he was out of the bedroom and into the living room. Sheeb, he knew about me. He sent an assassin. What if Yasin didn't wait to finish the thought? He yanked open the window and jumped from the balcony, red energy flaring around him. Please be safe, please be okay. He soared over the rain-soaked city, lightning curling around him like a cloak. Below, umbrellas moved like ants across the streets. He landed in an alley, steam hissing as his energy evaporated. Yasin sprinted onto the main road, scanning the crowds. There's no way she would follow the rules, he thought. But this is just a school. No one would dare start a fight here, right? But even as he tried to convince himself, his instinct screamed otherwise. Then, a poke in the back. A cold voice, "Don't move." Yasin whirled around, energy sparking, but stopped short when he saw the figure pulling down their hood. It was Yayu, his sister. She smiled and waved. "Relax, big bro. It's just me." Yasin's jaw dropped. "What took you so long?" "I nearly started a war." She shrugged. "Duty day. Had to clean the classroom." She popped open her umbrella and glanced at his bare feet. "You came running out barefoot and without an umbrella," she teased. I was in a hurry, okay?" Yasin mumbled, scratching his head. As they walked together under her umbrella, she nudged him playfully. "By the way, that little lightning thing you did? Care to explain how you pulled it off?" Meanwhile, across the street in a sleek, black-tinted car, a figure watched from behind the glass. Sheep's face twisted in a scowl. How is he still alive? Thunder cracked above. A few steps away, a sausage vendor handed over a fresh skewer. "Order up." Gio accepted it with a quiet nod. "Thanks." The smell of grilled sausages filled the air. Yasin and Yayu strolled down a busy street, smiling and chatting like two carefree siblings. The world, at least for a moment, felt normal. "So, what should I make for dinner?" Yayu asked, dodging a puddle. "Yes, Chef Yayu, I vote for your steamed meat slices," Yasin replied, grinning. "Just don't set off the smoke alarm this time." Behind them, a black car moved slowly, deliberately, like a shadow with wheels. Yasin noticed it. The streets had cleared. No one else around. Only them. And the silent predator tailing them. Later at home, rain tapped steadily against the windows. Yayu placed a steaming dish on the table. "Dinner's ready." "And someone should help me set the table," she called out. "I'm on it," Yasin replied, his eyes flicking briefly to the window where the same black car was now parked in the yard. His jaw clenched. He walked to the table, but his mind was already somewhere else. The next morning, clear skies, for once. In school, a teacher held up a textbook. Next problem. Who's solving? Yayu stood from her desk with a nod. Elsewhere, atop a high rooftop overlooking the city, Yasin watched with a cold expression. Hood drawn, hands in pockets. His eyes scanned the parking lot. That same car. Day 3. They're not even trying to hide anymore, he thought. But this time. The car pulled away. Yasin's eyes widened. Now we're getting somewhere. In a flash, he summoned his energy, jumped off the roof, and took to the sky, leaving behind a shimmering trail of red sparks. The black car slowed down. Its path ended at an abandoned construction site. Yasin landed silently atop a rusted crane, watching. Someone stepped out of the car and entered the half-built structure. His eyes narrowed. Sheep. Inside the building, a man screamed as blood splattered across the dusty floor. A bouncer delivered a brutal punch to the jaw of a debtor, sending him sprawling. I swear. I'll pay you back. Please? The bandit leader, sitting calmly against the wall, chuckled. You should know. My interest rate isn't something your grandma can handle. It doubles every day. The debtor, now on his knees, begged again. I have kids. Parents. I just needed time. Just then, the door creaked. A returning subordinate bowed to Sheeb. My lord. I've returned. Yasin observed everything from behind a pipe, using shadow magic to mask his presence. Any news about the assassin? Sheeb asked, not bothering to look. The mercenary vanished, the man replied. We'll contact him again through a front. Yasin was right, the student thought. The hitman was his doing. Turning to another man in the room, Sheeb hissed, some people really think they can trick powerful families like mine. He began kicking the blooded debtor. The bodyguard dropped to his knees. I swear loyalty. I would never betray you. Then, a man in glasses bent over the lifeless body. He's dead. Sheep scoffed and waved his hand. Get rid of it. His voice darkened. And what about the sister? The blonde man beside him spoke up. I planned to send someone who just got out of prison. But now. I think I'll take care of her myself. He turned, only to face Yesen. Their eyes locked. The air buzzed with tension. I'll make sure you regret that plan, Yesen said coldly. Lightning erupted from his body in a flash of rage. The criminal reached for a weapon, too slow. A violent crack, and a blow to the stomach sent him crashing to the ground. "Why?" the blonde stammered, blood dripping from his lips. Sheeb, calm but furious, raised his bloody hand. Punishment. For incompetence. Suddenly, from above, Yesen struck. Emerging from the shadows like a wraith, his weapon gleamed. The enemy spun around, eyes wide. Too late. The blade slashed clean through him. Thud. A corpse hit the floor. The room froze. The bodyguard stared, stunned. Their master, dead. The blonde man clenched his fists. He used a stealth skill. Is this the guy they call Litsen? Yesen stepped out of the shadows. Twin blades in hand, green aura swirling around him. The man snarled. Where did you get that shadow talent? We checked, your aptitude was weak. How did you kill the young master with one hit? Where is Litsen? Yesen cracked his neck. Ice cold, voice sharp, I am Litsen. With his hood drawn low and daggers flashing like lightning, Yesen dashed forward. His enemy's eyes widened in terror. You can't kill me, the blonde man shouted, but he never finished that sentence. 2 clean slashes. Silence. The man collapsed to the ground, blood blooming across his chest like a crimson flower. Yesen exhaled and pulled a handkerchief from his pocket. Calmly, he wiped the blades, then tossed the cloth onto the body. A faint hieroglyph marked one corner. Pink energy shimmered, and the daggers vanished. He lowered his hood and looked back one last time. I'm not some sacrificial lamb you can just drag to the altar, he muttered. They chose the wrong person to mess with. Without another word, Yesen turned and walked out of the warehouse. Behind him, lightning cracked in the sky. 1 hour later, sleek black cars pulled into the construction site. A tall, imposing man stepped out, fists clenched. Who did this? Moan growled, his gaze settling on the blooded corpse of his son. He dropped to one knee beside the body. His face, cold as steel, betrayed a flicker of pain. Who killed my boy? A bodyguard stepped forward, holding the blood-stained handkerchief. We found this. Moan snatched it. His eyes narrowed at the hieroglyph. The guard's voice trembled. We believe it's the work of a shadow assassin. The 10th elder will want to see this. Moments later, Chaining entered the room. Purple energy rippled subtly around him. Heads bowed as he passed. Moan looked up. My son. The genius of our family. He's gone. Chaining closed his eyes briefly. Tell me everything. The 10th elder stepped forward, voice solemn. Sheep had just broken through to the warrior level. We held a feast in his honor. He had a future. He could have taken our family to the top. His voice cracked. Now he's dead. Eyes burning, Moan turned to Chaining. We can't let this go. Please, avenge him. Chaining took the handkerchief and studied it closely. His eyes widened. Outside, the elder held the cloth to the sunlight. Tiny blood droplets gleamed, and then, beneath the corner, a nearly invisible mark. The symbol of Iron Fang. The cloth fluttered from his hand, landing in the dirt. Looking out over the city, Django, one of Chaining's disciples, spoke with quiet awe. Iron Fang. They're way beyond any local gang. If they're involved, this isn't just murder. It's a message. He turned to Chaining. Master thinks someone in Linhai secretly allied with Iron Fang. Trying to take down all the genius heirs to gain power. He lowered his voice. And they took Sheeb's head right after his breakthrough. Cold and calculated. Back at the academy, Yesen listened quietly. A faint smile tugged at his lips. Nobody suspected him. He'd left Lon's handkerchief behind deliberately, to redirect blame. But now, it had unexpectedly pointed to Iron Fang. A genius misdirection, or a dangerous twist. Walking through the streets, Yesen frowned. Did I accidentally mess up Iron Fang's plans? Or is Chaining using this to trigger a war between Linhai and Iron Fang? Next morning, 4 a.m. darkness still blanketed the academy. The air was cold, silent. Yesen sat up in bed and stretched. Time to move. Pulling on his hoodie, he grabbed a small black bag from beside the bed. He slung it over his shoulder and stepped outside. In the still night air, he knelt to tie his shoelaces, mind sharp. A storm was coming, and he had no intention of standing in the open when it hit. As Yesen quietly prepared to leave, Yayo approached him, rubbing her sleepy eyes. "Brother, where are you going this early?" she asked, still half asleep. Startled, Yesen turned around and quickly apologized. "I'm heading into the wild zone. I need to get stronger, fast." The girl pouted, hand on her chin. "You just got back, and now you're leaving again? Why not take your friends with you?" Turning away, Yesen shook his head. "Don't worry. Just stay here. Stay safe. Don't get involved in anything dangerous." Before he could move, Yayo ran up and hugged him from behind. Lowering his head, he pressed his forehead to hers. Her voice was soft but firm. "Then come back quickly. Promise me." Standing still for a moment, Yesen whispered, "I'll be back. I promise." Moments later, a bright wave of energy surged through the air. Yesen opened his eyes to a vast desert wilderness, standing atop a mountain overlooking an oasis. Heat shimmered in the distance. "This place has high-level monsters, but with my current ability, I should only trigger the low-level ones," he thought, scanning the area. He clenched his fists. It didn't matter. He would become a warrior, no matter what it took. A smirk touched his lips, just before the ground shook violently beneath him. Down the slope, a massive minotaur struck an enormous earthworm in the back, roaring with rage. A notification blinked before Yesen's eyes. Target, armored bull, low blood and defense talents interesting. Yesen rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Then the minotaur turned and locked eyes with him. "Oh no," Yesen muttered. "It noticed me." The armored beast charged up the slope at full speed. Dropping his bag to the sand, Yesen leapt up and summoned a sheath of lightning. Daggers materialized mid-air. The bull lowered its head, horns gleaming. Yesen's eyes flashed. With blades raised, he struck. Clang! The daggers collided with the monster's protective barrier. Sparks flew. Frowning, Yesen realized that defense talent may be low-ranked, but it's tough. The minotaur roared, spreading its arms wide. Boom! The explosion of force launched Yesen into a cloud of dust. Groaning, he hit the rocks below, coughing but grinning. "I want that skill," he muttered. "Might as well take it." He raised his daggers, stepping forward. The monster snorted and stomped, red fire glowing in its eyes. "Okay," Yesen whispered. Lightning crackling around him. "Let's steal a talent." He charged forward again, red lightning trailing behind like a comet. With a nimble leap, he landed on the minotaur's back. "Every monster has a weak point, and I just need to hit it." The minotaur snarled, its fangs bared. Yesen gripped his blade tight, then plunged it downward. Crack! The dagger struck the barrier and shattered. Yesen's eyes widened. No way, even with its supposedly weak defense, the beast was stronger than expected, stronger than the snake he fought in the exam, but not as deadly as the silver moon wolf. He flew backward as the minotaur swung a heavy fist, slamming him into the rocks. Sitting in the dust, Yesen grunted and picked up the remains of his broken blade. A glowing message floated in front of him. Copy skill cooldown, 16 days remaining, he sighed. Great! So much for stealing that ability today. Looking at the towering enemy, he thought, it's huge, so there has to be a weak spot. He tossed the dagger into the sand and narrowed his eyes. Time for plan B. A green aura wrapped around his body. Yesen activated shadow talent. He vanished, dissolving into streaks of green energy. From above, he soared through the air, leaving a gleaming green trail behind him. The desert wind howled. Circling the beast silently, Yesen struck again, tink. Tick! Tick! His dagger tapped against the barrier repeatedly, failing to break through. Sparks rained down onto the sand. But the minotaur? It didn't even realize it was under attack. Thanks to his shadow skill, he was invisible, even while attacking. Yesen smirked. Good, he muttered. Let's keep it that way. A glowing light aura shimmered around the minotaur's barrier. Even advanced sword techniques couldn't pierce through. Yesen pulled back his hood and frowned. There has to be a weak point somewhere. He sat down in a lotus position, scanning the beast calmly, his sharp gaze searching for flaws. His eyes trailed to the monster's tail. Just beneath it, the barrier ended. He scratched his cheek and tilted his head. No way. A mischievous grin spread across his face. Is its weakness, seriously, its butt? With no time to waste, Yesen shot forward, his dagger buzzing with lightning. Using shadow murder, he zipped toward the tail, blade ready. The minotaur roared in agony as the dagger plunged into its rear. Thud! Its massive body collapsed, splashing purple blood across the golden sands. Yesen's smirk widened. Bingo! With the monster slain, its once tough hide was now just meat and muscle. He unscrewed a glass vial and began collecting the blood. 1, 2, 3 vials, then wiped the sweat from his brow. It doesn't matter how strong your defense is. Once you're re-dead. Standing before the corpse of the colossal beast, Yesen's eyes sparkled. Those horns must be worth a fortune. He sliced them off cleanly and slung them over his shoulder with a grunt, securing them with his backpack straps. Time to find a place to recover. Soon after, Yesen reached a hidden cave. Before him lay his hard-earned loot and a small stash of peanuts prepared by his sister. He smiled softly. This is my ticket into the world of warriors. He downed the vials one by one, throwing peanuts into his mouth between gulps. Inside his chest, energy churned violently. Power rippled from within. He closed his eyes. 20 days passed. Yesen hadn't moved an inch. Until finally. His eyes snapped open, glowing blue like twin flames. He let out a thunderous cry, lightning erupted in all directions. The ground trembled. Birds fled from the desert sky. A massive pillar of light shot up into the heavens. Far away, 2 girls stood atop a cliff. One wore a red cloak and smiled faintly. Someone just broke through to martial artist level in this wasteland. On her cloak, the words Martial Pavilion were stitched beneath a blooming flower. Back in the cave, Yesen opened his hands, feeling a torrent of power surge through him. I did it, he whispered. I've reached the martial artist level. Looking at the empty vials, he realized the 20-day cooldown was over. Time to copy another ability. He sprinted out of the cave, eyes locked on the armored bull's bones. Touching the horn, a notification popped up, copy failed, target structure incomplete. He froze. What? Staring at the skeleton, he sighed deeply. So if I'd known this, maybe I wouldn't have butchered it like a cooking show contestant. Back on the cliff, the 2 cloaked women observed from afar. Could he have killed the Minotaur? The younger asked. The older shook her head. He just broke through. That monster's been dead for a while. The younger girl frowned. So someone else took it down? And he's just scavenging? Her companion nodded. Still, it's impressive. Not many dare to climb this mountain. Down by the oasis, Yesen stood in front of his crumpled clothes, stretching. Been nearly a month, probably smell like the Minotaur at this point. He stepped into the water, ready to wash up. On the cliff, the red-cloaked girl gasped. What is he doing? That's indecent. Her mistress calmly pulled her away. Let's go before this gets awkward. With a splash, Yesen dove into the lake, sending ripples across the still surface. Elsewhere, under the bright blue sky of the Linhai Martial Arts Market, the scene was lively. Traders shouted, stalls bustled, and energy filled the air. Yesen stood in front of the largest shop in the market. A grand sign hung above it, Martial Pavilion. Raising an eyebrow, he stepped closer. Behind him, a blonde girl passed by, stealing a glance. Isn't that the same guy from the desert? Yesen stood still, eyes locked on the girl ahead. She turned back toward him, her eyes momentarily shut, then opened in surprise. His jaw dropped. Yo, he whispered. But the girl didn't react. They stood face to face, silence stretching between them like a drawn blade. The girl frowned slightly. Yesen's heart skipped. But then, reality struck. He blinked, his brows furrowing. No, it can't be her. He turned away and sighed, dragging a hand down his face. But something made his eyes narrow again. A faint shimmer of blue particles appeared near the girl's waist. A status window floated beside her. Yesen's instinct screamed. She's a genius. The blonde beside the girl stepped forward, eyes sharp. Who are you calling your sister, her? The brunette in red took a step too. And what makes you think you can talk to us? Shouldn't you be rolling around in the trash where you belong? Yesen opened his mouth in disbelief. I just showered. He sniffed his arm. Seriously, do I still smell like Minotaur blood? Before the verbal beatdown could escalate, the red-cloaked girl waved her hand. Enough, Zed, she said gently. It slipped out. She leaned close and whispered something to her. Zed's expression changed instantly. My apologies, she bowed. My mistress already disciplined me. Yesen watched as the red-cloaked girl, Yuling, began to walk away. Zhu, the blonde, grabbed his hand. Come on. My lady's busy now, but we'll take your monster parts to the Martial Pavilion. Our manager's a brunette, she handles the trade. And we'll pay double as an apology. Yesen's eyes shot open. Double? He didn't need convincing after that. The pavilion was a fortress of wealth, walls lined with weapons, racks of polished armor, shelves of glowing elixirs. Yesen couldn't help but whistle. Guess this is what the biggest store in Linhai looks like. They reached a table. He laid down his loot, horns, meat, and blood of the armored bull. Zhu poured him some tea and smiled. We'll buy everything for 200,000. But with the apology bonus, that's 400,000. Yesen choked on his drink. 400? He covered his eyes, then nodded frantically. I'll take it. Gladly. The glowing cards slid across the table. He pocketed them like precious treasure. My sister's gonna faint when she sees this. Zhu wasn't finished. She handed him a blue membership book. You also get a 50% store-wide discount. His grin widened. He flipped through the pages, eyes narrowing at the outrageous prices. High-level cultivation, only for the filthy rich, I guess. He raised his head. I'll take 1 body strengthening technique, 1 monster manual, 3 bottles of mid-tier monster blood, and 3 bottles of Kinuin solution. Zhu reached for the top shelf and returned with a box of supplies. With the discount, your total is 785,000, she said. But let's round it down to 700,000. Consider it another apology. Yesen thought back to the Shadow Killer's gift, his gold card. He handed it over without hesitation. Zhu returned his change. He picked up the suitcase, eyes thoughtful. This shop's too fancy to give discounts over a simple insult. What are they playing at? He headed toward the door. If they're not gonna say anything, I'll just wait, Zhu called out behind him. He froze. Turning slowly, he met her gaze. The manager, she wants to meet you personally. Yesen's eyes narrowed with curiosity. Show me the way. They entered a quiet room. Yuling was already seated, sipping tea. As she turned toward him, Yesen's heart skipped. They looked eerily alike. His eyes widened. Yuling extended her hand. I wanted to introduce myself, she said softly. The two stood opposite one another, mirror images in posture and gaze. I am Yuling, she said, voice steady, an elite warrior from the land of demons. As Yesen reached out and shook Yuling's hand, a spark of lightning burst between them. A system notification popped up in his mind, high-level cultivation talent successfully copied, his lips curled into a quiet smile. Yesen, he said, introducing himself properly. The sunlight spilled across the elegant room like golden silk. Yuling gestured toward a long dining table. Please, have a seat. She poured him some tea as Yesen sat down cautiously. The second floor is reserved for VIP clients, she said calmly. Yesen crossed his arms, unimpressed. Then why invite a poor commoner with no noble connections? Yuling paused, holding the teapot mid-air. That's exactly why I invited you. Her eyes locked onto his, cold, calculating, but not unkind. Yesen frowned. She's nothing like my sister. Her gaze is like ice. Zhu slid a cup toward him. Yuling took a sip from hers. Let's speak frankly, she said. She placed a red wooden cross on the table, its center decorated with a delicate flower. It glowed faintly. Join our martial arts hall, she said, crossing her arms. Yesen blinked. In his mind, he saw his sister again, giving him that look, the one that always made him cave. How can I say no when she pouts like that? He took the tea in hand, thoughtful. But I don't get it, he finally said. Mai is a massive city, full of talent. Why me? Yuling stood and walked to the window. It's not because we lack talent, she said, looking back at him. It's because we never stop searching for more. Yesen's eyes widened slightly. Who? Makes sense. He leaned back, folding his arms. Zhu leaned in and whispered, seriously, why the hesitation? You don't get opportunities like this twice. She smiled proudly. Even noble elites fight tooth and nail to climb in Maya's hierarchy. But my mistress? She doesn't care about that. Yesen closed his eyes. Joining a hall means restrictions. If they learn about my ability, I could be. He exhaled. Better to stay independent until I solve my problems. Yuling turned from the window, folding her arms. Why are you hesitating? Yesen glanced at her. That face, she's too sincere to lie. She stepped forward. Tell me the truth. Yesen clenched his fist. There are rumors, he said finally. The Iron Fangs are invading. The big families are going insane, fighting each other over power. He looked down, then up again. I've only just started living normally. I don't want to serve those kinds of people. Yuling blinked. Who do you take me for? Yesen's voice was quiet. Are you really different? The elite warrior walked closer. Look, she said softly. Watch me. Decide for yourself. She smiled, just slightly. You don't need to answer right now. Yesen stared at her, brows furrowed. He left the building and stepped onto the busy street. Around him, warriors passed in full gear. A grand gate loomed ahead, a glowing hieroglyph etched above it. Lightning sparked between Yesen's fingers as he looked down at his hand. Warriors, talents. What are they really, he wondered. He watched the bustling city, vendors shouting, families hurrying, children laughing. Were warriors meant to protect? Or just show off their power? A football bounced near him. A group of kids ran up, grinning. Hey, mister! Can we get the ball back? One man stepped up instead. With a cruel smirk, he kicked it hard, pop. The ball burst. The children froze. Why do normal people suffer from monsters and warriors? Yesen thought bitterly. The man sneered and walked away. Later, rain fell like silver threads from the sky. Yesen stood alone on a rooftop, soaked to the bone, lightning dancing across his palm. His expression was hard. If I want to change anything, he muttered, I need to become stronger. Strong enough to stand above them. Yesen stared ahead as a status window materialized before his eyes. Begin merging talent. Yes and no. Before he could answer, sunlight bathed the quiet house. The door creaked open. I'm back, he called. Inside, Yayo was wiping the table when she heard his voice. In a flash, she rushed over and threw her arms around him. You're home, she cried, squeezing him tightly. She stepped back and looked him over, eyes wide. How did you grow up so fast in just 3 weeks? With a grin, Yesen took off his hoodie. I became a warrior. Yayo's jaw dropped. A warrior, she gasped, holding her face like it might fall off from shock. Wait till Mom and Dad hear. Oh wait, they'd re-gone, but still. They'd be so proud. She twirled with joy like she was auditioning for a ballet. Yesen watched her with a smile. One day, her talent will awaken too. And I'll help her all the way. Talent not yet awakened, freezing. Just then, Yayo picked up a pair of scissors. Your hair is getting ridiculous, she said, motioning him to sit. A warrior should look like a warrior. Yes, General, he joked, sitting straight. Hold still, she commanded, snipping with focus. Yesen, bring my hair back to its former glory. I got you, she said, eyes closed dramatically like a stylist in a commercial. Hair fell softly to the floor. Yesen lowered his head. Time's flying by so fast. He smiled faintly, remembering how Yayo had always cut his hair after their parents passed. A memory surfaced. Little Yayo stood behind him, scissors trembling in her hands. I can't do it, she whispered. Her lips quivered. There's a wound, she said softly. Blood trickled from the gash on his head. He just smiled through the pain. It's fine, the boy said, voice gentle. No need to spend money on the hospital. But just cut it short and cover it with a bandage. The scissors slipped from her fingers. Tears welled up in her eyes. It'd be easier if you had the immortal gelish power, she sniffled. Yesen turned. Immortal, what now? You told me about it, she said, squatting beside him. The gelish has the recovery ability. Gets hurt, heals instantly. Yesen groaned. That was a kid's story. How are you still falling for that stuff? Clenching her little fists, Yayo pouted. It's real. He patted her head. Fine, fine. If I get a power, maybe it'll be that one. Eyes closing, the younger Yesen made a promise. One day, no one will be able to hurt me. And I'll protect you. Always. Back in the present, he jumped from his chair. Gelish, he shouted. Yayo flinched, scissors midair. Sit still. I'm not finished. But Yesen was already gone, darting to the bookshelf. He pulled out an old treasure book and flipped through it. There. Immortal Gelish, rare creature of the dead lake. Possesses the talent of recovery. His eyes lit up. Yayo came up beside him, puzzled. Why are you talking to yourself? He smiled, deep in thought. If I could copy that recovery ability. I wouldn't have to worry about getting injured in battle. Leaning over his shoulder, Yayo squinted. You still believe in that fairy tale? You told me about it when I was 5. Yesen slammed the book shut. Asterisk asterisk, it's not a fairy tale, he said firmly. She rolled her eyes, arms crossed. Well, come back and let me finish cutting your hair, jellish boy. Holding the book tightly, Yesen sat down again as she got back to work. He read another passage. Warriors can strengthen their bodies through a 3-stage technique, skin, muscles, bones. He looked down, placing his hand on his knee. Let's see how far I've come. A brilliant clot of energy formed next to him, glowing fiercely. His grin returned. Yesen sat in a lotus position, deep in thought. Let's see if progress is still this fast. He picked up a vial filled with monster blood, this time from a mid-level creature, and drank it without hesitation. The red liquid slid down his throat as a purple aura swirled around him. His eyes widened. 3 times faster. The boost was insane, but his focus remained sharp. The dead lake. That's the next step. The cooldown on his copy ability was 30 days. That gave him just enough time to train. Until then, cultivate. Meanwhile, dark clouds loomed over the battle pavilion. The door creaked open as an unawakened figure entered. The clerk, Zhu, looked up and blinked. You? Yesen stepped forward, hands in his pockets, his new haircut making him look more like a boy band member than a warrior. Zhu ran over, pointing at him. Are you here for my mistress again? Nah, he replied. Just need to buy something. He's kinda cute like this, she thought, for a trash digger. She smiled awkwardly and waved him in. Yesen, right? What are you looking for? Got a map of the dead lake. She nodded and opened a cabinet. Pulling out a neatly rolled scroll, she placed it on the counter. This is it. Yesen's eyes lit up. This was exactly what he needed. 100,000 yuan, Zhu said with a grin. Without flinching, he handed her a silver card. As he turned to leave, Zhu clutched her chest. Even elite warriors avoid the dead lake. Creepy monsters everywhere. Hope this guy doesn't get himself killed. Far from the city, thunder rumbled as pink lightning slashed the sky. A wave of energy danced across the mountains. Yesen landed on one knee before the ruined shores of the dead lake, a grim smile forming on his face. Let's see what you've got for me, DLL. He surveyed the broken landscape, decay, silence, danger in the air. A red aura pulsed faintly. Something was watching. Then, boom! A flash of lightning. The sky cracked open. Yesen narrowed his eyes. A storm formed above the water as a massive typhoon spiraled upward. Something was hiding inside. Green energy burst from Yesen's feet, shadow talent activated, and he bolted into the air. Up above, a giant sphere of lightning crackled violently. From its center, a figure emerged. Umbrella in hand, the man raised his voice. Yuling. Let's take it down together. Yesen's eyes went wide. Wait, that's... Below them, a Titanic. Monster opened its jaws. Too late, someone yelled. The beast snapped its mouth shut, but the heroes leapt away just in time. They landed on the shore, only to find a top-tier monster waiting for them. Gritting his teeth, an older warrior hurled a young woman, Yuling, out of harm's way. I'll hold them off, he shouted. She fell to the ground, clutching a golden box. Behind her, a swarm of monsters emerged. Surrounded, muttered Yesen, watching from the distance. Suddenly, a giant crocodile charged toward Yuling. Enough waiting. Yesen leapt into action. The elite warrior rushed the beast, which barreled toward Yuling with its jaws open. At the last moment, she closed her eyes. Then, whoosh! A flower symbol bloomed on her forehead. Her hair turned pink. A saber formed in her hand. Pink energy danced like petals around her. Her comrade shouted, "Be careful!" But in the blink of an eye, she was gone. The monster froze, confused. Then, slash! She reappeared above it, her eyes sharp, her grip unshaken. A sword mark carved across the monster's head. With a swirl of power, she landed beside it as the energy blast sent dust exploding through the air. Yesen jumped back, eyes narrowed, heart racing. She's strong, but that monster's not down yet. From his perch, Yesen watched in awe as Yuling danced through the battlefield. Is this some kind of secret technique? She sliced through the giant crocodiles like they were made of paper. Yesen blinked in amazement. Okay, note to self, never make her mad. Each swing of her saber tore through scales and bone. The air shimmered with wild energy. Yesen realized just how far behind he was in raw combat. I'm not even in the same league. Meanwhile, one of the lake monsters rose from the depths, its teeth clamped around the leg of an old warrior. It opened its mouth to devour him. Mistress! Run, he shouted, blood pouring from his mouth. That secret technique won't last forever. Yuling, now glowing with power, didn't hesitate. She sliced the monster clean in half. But the man's voice trembled. If you don't leave now, the deaths of our 10 comrades will mean nothing. Yuling closed her eyes for a moment. Even from afar, Yesen could feel the weight of her decision. What are they protecting? He wondered. What's so valuable that they'd fight this hard? She jumped. More crocodiles chased her. The glow on her forehead vanished, her hair returning to its usual black. Oh! The technique had ended. Yuling crashed to the ground. The golden box she'd been holding rolled away. Yesen landed beside her, his cloak billowing in the wind. She blinked at him, her vision blurred. He picked up the box and looked down at her. What's inside? He asked. With a grunt, she tried to rise. Relax, he said. I'm not here to rob you. Behind them, the monsters growled. No time for arguments. He scooped her up, holding her carefully in his arms. We'll find shelter first, he said. Silence means yes, right? And with that, a burst of energy shot them away from danger. Bird soared over craggy rocks as the two finally found safety. Yesen laid his cloak over Yuling, watching her face. She really looks like her sister? He noticed a small mark under her eye. At first, he thought it was dirt. He gently rubbed it. Nothing. His eyes widened. A birthmark, it's real. Above them, dark clouds began to gather. Yuling still hadn't moved. How long will she stay unconscious? Then, slowly, her lips parted. She mumbled something. Yesen's jaw dropped. Why you awake? She sat up, rubbing her forehead. Did you save me? She asked. Yesen looked away, pretending to yawn. I was just passing by. Yuling smiled and handed him back his cloak. Thanks, still, she said. As he put it on, she looked him over. A guy who dares come to the dead lake alone, impressive. Gotta recruit him. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a glowing crystal. Yesen blinked. What's that? She smirked, raising it dramatically. Oh? Surprised? I scared you, didn't I? She teased. It's called a light stone. It stores ambient light, very useful in dark places. As it floated upward, tiny glowing particles sparkled in the air. Yesen leaned in. Where did you get this? Twirling the crystal, she smiled. I'll tell you after I drink this. She popped open a healing potion, took a sip, and winced. Yesen scratched his chin. Definitely no spatial type skills among her talents, probably. Yuling sat in a lotus position as green healing particles shimmered around her. She kicked her now resting companion gently. I'm healed. Yesen stood up, arms folded, ready for whatever came next. Do you really want to know where I got all this? Yuling teased, lifting a small bag in one hand and a bronze box in the other. Yesen blinked. Wait. That chest was way bigger a second ago. She smiled as the box shrank and slipped easily into the bag. His eyes widened. Not a spatial talent. It's a spatial treasure. Impressed, he asked, can anyone learn to use it? If you join the battle pavilion, I'll take you to our headquarters. I'll teach you everything, she offered with a wink. Yesen yawned and flopped down on the ground. I need to sleep first. Yuling watched him in silence. I will recruit you, even if it takes everything I've got. Meanwhile, Yesen lay on his side, eyes closed. Spatial treasure, healing potions. Once I copy those talents, I won't need this stuff anymore. But his thoughts darkened. She disturbed the dead lake. It won't calm down anytime soon. Morning arrived over the lush green valley. Yesen lay alone, stretched out under the sun. He sat up, stretched, and wait. Where's Yuling? She was gone. But not far from him, a red box lay in the grass. He opened it, puzzled. It definitely wasn't from the cave. Inside were a mid-level deep training manual, 10 bottles of high-level monster blood, 10 gold cultivation cards. His jaw dropped. She left all this for me. Smiling, he whispered, thanks. He uncorked one of the bottles, the red liquid glowing faintly. Plans change. First, I'll become an elite warrior. Then, I'm coming for the immortal jellyfish. For months later, a fire crackled under a roasting boar. Empty cans and a ragged cloak lay nearby. Yesun sat cross-legged, glowing with energy. Bolts of lightning exploded into the sky. He opened his eyes, his hand crackling with power. This is the strength of an elite warrior. He stood up, throwing on his cloak with a grin. It's time to hunt. Rain poured over 11 fresh graves. Standing before a simple wooden cross, Yesun remained still. She built these, he murmured, eyes scanning the site. Not even bones left behind, but she still honored them. He picked up a stone and placed it on one of the graves. Turning to leave, he spotted something odd, an umbrella stuck into one of the grave markers. It was a diver's umbrella? He took it and opened it curiously. How could this help underwater? Suddenly, bubbles surrounded him. A watertight bubble lifted him off the ground. Grinning, he floated up. This is amazing. He zoomed across the surface of the dead lake, splashing waves with each movement. Then, without hesitation, he dove under. Inside the water, he marveled. This umbrella lets me move like lightning underwater. Thanks to Shadow Talon, his vision sharpened. Green energy shimmered up ahead. Then, a message flashed before his eyes, mid-level blood talent detected nearby. A massive fish swam past. Yesun froze, heart pounding. Mid-level monster. I can't fight that head-on. He swam deeper, his foot finally touching the lake's bottom. In the darkness, eyes glowed. No way, is the immortal jellyfish really here? From above, tentacles draped down like a curtain of doom. A huge shadow shifted. Yesun spun around, just as a tentacle struck the ground beside him. What the hell? His eyes widened in horror. A massive creature loomed before him, its tentacles glistening, its mouth lined with fangs. That's no ordinary monster. Immortal jellyfish, top-level restoration talent. A tentacle lashed out toward the bubble. Yesun summoned a dagger, energy crackling along its edge. With a roar, he sliced it off in one clean stroke. The jellyfish shrieked in pain, but the limb was already regenerating. Yesun's grip tightened. This is going to be a problem. A new tentacle emerged where the old one had been severed. Yesun squinted through the murky water. As expected, a top-level restoration talent reacts this fast. The tentacle whipped toward him. Without hesitation, Yesun reached out and touched it. His hand crackled with lightning. White heavy checkmark talent copied successfully. A moment later, he shot toward the surface. His bubble burst, and he gasped for air, but instead, he crashed down onto the rocky lakebed. Flat on his back, he wheezed, then grinned wildly. It's mine now. The talent of an immortal jellyfish. But his celebration was cut short. The creature spat a purple glob of saliva at him. The acidic goo struck his umbrella, it sizzled, burned, then fell apart. A few drops splashed onto his arm, searing his skin. He bit down a scream as the current dragged the ruined umbrella away. His eyes turned sharp, red and alert. I can't stay here any longer. More sparkling eyes shimmered around him. A swarm of jellyfish was closing in. Yesun clenched his fists. No point in fighting a whole hive. He shot upward, cutting through the water. Rain fell over the dead lake as Yesun emerged. He gasped for breath, gulping in the fresh air. Below, tentacles churned toward the surface. But with a burst of pink lightning, Yesun launched himself from the lake, moving so fast the rain seemed to freeze around him. He hit land, feet crackling with energy. Back at his cave hideout, he collapsed on the cold stone floor. His chest heaved. I actually survived that. Summoning his status window, he wasted no time. Merge copied talent? Yes, he hit the button. Green lightning surged through him. Yesun winced, but smiled through the pain. How many times has my body endured this already? White heavy checkmark talent fusion successful. A new status screen appeared, listing all his acquired abilities. Placing a hand on his chest, he nodded. The process is easier now. Time to test it. He glanced at a burning wound on his hand, the toxic saliva still eating at his skin. Ordinary people would have died already. He activated recovery. Green particles flickered. The wound vanished. Yesun stood up, fire in his eyes. He struck the cave wall with his bare hand, crack. The stone split open, huge craters forming. He looked down at his unharmed hand. So far, all these talents, they're defensive or supportive. He needed offense. It was time to find new targets. The Next morning above the city, dark clouds parted as the sun rose. Yesen turned the pages of a beast encyclopedia, thoughtful. The flaming bird, the powerful bear, both had solid combat skills. "Don't twitch," Yeo warned, scissors and comb in hand. "Sorry," Yesen muttered, sitting still for his haircut. Then, one creature on the next page caught his attention. An ant, labeled ferocious low-level beast with supernatural strength. He read further. They appear in swarms. Even great warriors can't escape if surrounded. A smile crept across his lips. At the battle pavilion, the sky was a soft orange. Yesen pushed open the door. "Welcome," an employee chirped. She was sorting goods on the shelf. Turning, she recognized him. "Oh, it's you." He placed a piece of paper on the counter. "I need the complete remains of this and the one with supernatural strength." She picked it up and raised an eyebrow. "You planning to drink it?" she teased. "Tinctures really bulk you up." Yesen blinked. "Do I really look that weak?" Raising her finger, the blonde explained, "We don't have the beast, but we've got information." "Then tell me everything." She brushed her hair behind her ear, then pointed to a map. "There's a new trade route being planned between Linhai Stronghold and a smaller nearby point. The area in between is crawling with fierce beasts, including those ants." Scratching his head, Yesen asked, "Are you talking about Tar?" "That's the closest town to Linhai." She nodded, serious now. Z confirmed the location. It was about 100 kilometers from Linhai. She added something more troubling. The Mo family suspected Tar of killing one of their own. Yesen frowned. "Are they planning an invasion?" Z shook her head, dipping her hand into a barrel of supplies. "No. They're investigating," she said. "Tar claims it's a misunderstanding. In fact, Tar and the Mo family had a long-standing connection, and it was thanks to that bond that Tar had brokered a deal with the Lin family to establish a new trade route." Yesen rubbed his chin. "Trade routes, political tension, monster-infested paths, this can't be good." Just then, the blonde held out a small card. "This is your entry pass," she said. "We gave it to all mid-tier and small-point warriors joining the route-clearing mission." She waved her hand. "We're not going. We only work with the medium-tier zones now." Yesen took the card, a sly smile creeping across his face. "Perfect." Z added, "If you take part in the monster-clearing mission, you'll find what you're looking for." "That ant?" "They live along the route." Yesen looked at the card thoughtfully. Even the Mo family bowed to the Lin clan, rulers of the Linhai Stronghold. "Guess it's time to see what the big boys are up to." The square in front of the Lin family estate buzzed with energy. Yesen crossed through the crowd, hands in his pockets, eyes sharp. This isn't the place to get careless. All around him were battle-hardened warriors, men and women with grim expressions, heavy armor, and weapons gleaming in the light. "There he is," someone whispered. Fingers pointed toward the stage. Minjin had arrived. Arms wide open, he greeted the crowd. "Welcome, brave warriors. Thank you for joining us in this monster-clearing mission." In the crowd, Chaining narrowed his eyes. Moen furrowed his brows. Yesen noticed them both, members of the Mo family, without a doubt. Above them, the blue sky stretched calmly, almost ironically serene. A man on stage shouted over the gathering, "Linhai base is small. Our resources are tight. But if we connect with a medium-sized base, the benefits will be massive. That's why this mission is vital." He wasn't wrong. Knights in iron armor stood to the side, still and silent. Nearby, someone murmured, "Monster hunting is risky and not worth it unless the rewards are huge." As if on cue, A.G. Lingan smirked and shouted, "This mission's yield will surpass a regular hunt by miles." The Lin family members raised their arms and cheered. The excitement surged like a tide. A man in a dark cloak turned toward the stage. Fenning raised his hand in greeting. Yesen squinted, smiling to himself. "Does the captain even remember me?" On stage, Minjin stepped forward. "To clear your doubts," he said loudly, "we promise this, every resource you earn is yours to keep." He raised his fist. The crowd erupted in cheers. "And one more thing," Minjin added, hands on his waist. "Each warrior will receive 20 servings of mid-level beast blood and 2 million gold. Elite warriors will get 3 top-tier beast blood servings and 10 million gold." The crowd lost it. Fists punched the air. "Sign me up," someone yelled. The registration line snaked across the courtyard. A woman in pink called out, Testers, form a line. Warriors stepped forward one by one, placing their hands on a stone boulder that glowed when touched. Intermediate phase disciple, qualified, the stone boomed. One by one, they moved through. Yesen stood quietly in line, head down. Ying was right, he thought. No point in working under others. Next to him stood a man in a black fur coat, someone Yesen had a bad feeling about. More reason to stay under the radar. If the test revealed him as an elite warrior, he'd draw too much attention. When it was his turn, Yesen approached the massive stone. He placed his hand on it, reminding himself, don't go all out. Control it. Blue light flickered gently around his fingers. He closed his eyes. Just enough to qualify, no more. Fog rose, and bright inscriptions began to glow on the boulder. Then, the booming voice rang out, Final Phase Warrior, qualified. Yesen's lips twitched into a restrained smirk. Guess I underestimated myself, again. As Yesen walked away from the testing area, a man frowned and squinted at him, one eye shut. The whispers had already started. Almost an elite warrior, and that young. Which family does he belong to? Must be a hidden genius. Girls nearby giggled, calling him both talented and handsome. Yesen pulled up his hood. It's just a glimpse of my strength, he thought. And still, I attract too much attention. Nearby, a muscular warrior clenched his fists. Looks like we've got ourselves a new high-level hero. The short-haired man next to him smirked. We should ask the commander to recruit him. Our squad's still one short. But Fenning, the commander, shook his head. Final phase warriors are in demand. Doubt he'd look at a small squad like ours. Just then, Yesen approached. He pulled down his hood, smiling casually. Commander. Fenning's eyes widened in shock. You're the one who saved the little girl from the silver moon wolf. He laughed, clapping Yesen on the shoulder. It's been a year, and you've already leveled up this much. Yesen just smiled. Guess I've just been lucky. Then he added, would it be all right if I joined your squad for this mission? Fenning blinked, then raised a finger in the air. Accepted. Yesen gave a respectful bow. Glad to be working with you. One of the girls in the group turned, visibly relieved. With another late phase warrior, we can breathe a little easier. Yesen scratched the back of his head with a small, modest smile. If only they knew. They stepped into the ruined city, once a base, now a shell overrun by creatures. Damaged buildings loomed on either side. Commander Fenning raised his voice, map says only low-grade monsters live here. But don't rush. Keep your guard up. A howl echoed through the city. Then another. Wolves. Yesen turned sharply. They're close. Real close. Suddenly, they were surrounded, a full pack of beasts snarling from all sides. Form ranks. Fenning barked. I'll cover the front. Yesen, take the rear. The rest of the squad moved instinctively into position. A gleam of light reflected off Yesen's sword. It had a round hole in the blade, a sign of its unique construction. He smirked. Leave the back to me. The warriors stood shoulder to shoulder, weapons drawn, eyes locked on the enemy. The wolves bared their fangs. Their eyes glowed bright, hungry and wild. Fenning shouted, attack together. Yes, Commander. They leapt in opposite directions. The battle erupted. Yesen danced between fangs and claws. His sword sang through the air, slicing through fur and bone. Blue blood splashed around him. Yin, watching nearby, widened his eyes. So fast. A wolf lunged, Yesen kicked it mid-air, sending it crashing into a broken wall. Another beast charged. Yesen launched himself skyward, then came crashing down, his blade buried deep into its skull. The wolves fell one by one, until nothing remained but corpses and blood. Someone clapped behind him. Well done, Fenning said, stepping forward. The battlefield was still. Blood pooled around the bodies of the slain monsters. Fenning laughed. But you're still slower than me. Yesen chuckled and closed his eyes. Only because I'm holding back. The black-haired girl smiled sweetly. I like him more and more. Another warrior grinned and stretched. So young and strong. Commander, you better not slack off now. Yin watched from a distance, eyes sharp. Fenning was scolding the young man for talking too lightly. The squad regrouped, taking a breath. A warrior sat next to one of the fallen wolves. They attacked before we reached the valley, knowing they'd have a better chance. They stood in the middle of a wide road, open but uneasy. Fenning frowned. This isn't wolf territory, he said. These lands belong to creatures far worse. The short-haired warrior's face went pale. Fenning placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We've got 2 final phase warriors and 3 middle phase ones. We'll be fine. Then he pulled out a walkie-talkie. What's this? It's from the Lin family, Fenning replied, holding it up. Each commander carries one. If something goes wrong, we can call for backup. Relieved smiles spread across the group. But Yesun wasn't smiling. If wolves are this aggressive on the outskirts, what's waiting inside the valley? The team turned and continued their journey through the destroyed city. Rubble lined the streets, broken buildings loomed above them, and tension clung to the air like smoke. Suddenly, the commander froze. His ears twitched. He reached for his sword. Something's coming, he said sharply. Yesun's eyes narrowed. Above us. Everyone looked up. A hulking figure crouched on the rooftop, its eyes burning, tail flicking. Flame lizard. The system's voice echoed in Yesun's mind. Detected, flame-type monster, classification, low level, the creature hissed, opening its mouth. Fire flared inside. Yin's eyes widened. It's a fire talent. The beast unleashed a searing fireball. The warriors barely managed to leap back as a massive explosion tore through the place they'd been standing. The flame lizard roared and jumped from the rooftop. A couple of warriors stepped forward boldly, weapons drawn. Leave this one to us. Commander Fenning crossed his arms. Seems low level, but don't let your guard down. Fire's not a joke. The warriors leapt into the air, blades flashing. Yesun watched them calmly. They can handle this. Smoke swirled. Flames danced. The lizard was fast, but so were the warriors. In the middle of the smoldering rooftop, one of them grinned. We nailed it. The muscular man clapped his partner on the shoulder. Your shots kept it distracted. Good teamwork. The girl smirked. Low-level monsters? Easier than brushing off a speck of dust. Bright yellow light flashed across the sky. Before they could react, boom. A golden blast sent them all flying. Thick, dark smoke surged from the epicenter. Yesun stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. This isn't over. From within the flames, shadows emerged. More flame lizards, twice as many, larger, angrier. The warrior picked up his radio, voice shaky. This is Squad C. We're in trouble. Requesting backup. The commander called for help, but only static hissed in response. Fenning's expression hardened. They're ignoring us. One of the warriors growled, furious. Damn the Lin family. They're abandoning us. Fenning's face twisted in frustration. I thought, this time, we'd prove ourselves. The radio cracked in his grip. They're rotten to the core. Then he drew his sword. I'll hold the monsters off. You all run. The squad hesitated. Commander. Fenning turned, his voice hard. That's an order? The girl's mouth fell open in shock. The bald warrior clenched his fists. From the back, a man in a blue shirt suddenly dashed away. You guys are crazy. Keep pretending to be heroes, I'm out. The bald man growled. If that coward survives, I'll kill him myself. Fenning placed his hands on Yesun's shoulders. You've got potential. It'd be a shame to waste it here. Take 2 of them and go. Even the bald warrior stepped aside. You should leave too. The black-haired girl nodded. You're still new. Don't throw your future away. Yesun smiled softly. If I run? I only run forward. He stepped into the smoke. A blue mist began to swirl around him. Sword in one hand, backpack in the other, his aura shifted. The air crackled. Fenning's eyes widened. He's been hiding his power. The energy around Yesun roared like a storm. Elite warrior level. The others stared, stunned. A lizard launched a massive fireball, but Yesun didn't flinch. I didn't want to show this. Explosions thundered around him. The battlefield became a furnace. Yesun looked ahead. If I don't fight, the Wind Wolf squad dies here. Yin leapt into action. The flame lizard opened its maw wide, but Yesun struck first. One swing. His sword sliced through the monster cleanly. Fenning stayed behind, just to protect us. As he fought, another thought echoed in his mind. It would be cruel to keep hiding my strength now. Flame lizards lined up again, mouths glowing with fireballs. But Yesun's expression was calm. I'm not like those dogs from the Mo family. 2 blazing fireballs roared toward Yesun. He raised his sword, electricity crackling around him. Too late to worry about consequences now. But deep down, he knew Commander Fenning wouldn't hold this against him. Behind him, the smoke-wreathed building collapsed, crashing down onto the lizards below. Boom! The ground quaked from the blast. One of the girls grinned in awe. So this is the power of an elite warrior. Lightning surged around Yesun. He jumped high into the air, sword gleaming. His jaw clenched. His focus sharpened. He landed like a thunderbolt, right between two monsters. The sword arced through the air. A white-blue spark lit up the night. The lizards shrieked, electricity coursing through their bodies until they collapsed, twitching and charred. One of them opened its mouth one last time, its rows of sharp fangs gleaming, before it hit the dirt, lifeless. Fenning's hands trembled slightly. So strong. The commander narrowed his black brows. There was no doubt now, Yesun was one of the strongest warriors in Linhai. Just then, a loud scream echoed through the night. It was the man in the blue sweater. Flat on the ground. Two giant wolves sprinting toward him. He curled up, wailing pathetically. The bald warrior squinted into the distance. Commander, the coward's in danger. Fenning walked up slowly and shrugged. He ran alone like a fool. Let him deal with it. Yesun picked up his bag. The road's clear now. He threw on his backpack and turned to the others, grinning. You guys coming, or retreating? The three warriors froze. They weren't expecting that. Fenning closed his eyes, then clenched his fists. We go together. Wind Wolf Squad faces everything, together. Yesun smiled. Minutes passed. The guy with the scar on his forehead winced as the girl tied a tight bandage over his wound. Look at him, she muttered. Not even a scratch. Doesn't look pathetic at all. Yesun stood calmly on the rooftop. Down below, Wind Wolf looked up. Thanks for helping us get this far. Yesun barely glanced back. I'm going to try something. Wind Wolf's eyes widened. You're going further? Yes, Yesun replied flatly. The others approached, unsure. Yesun, maybe we should all go back, one said. But the protagonist was already walking away. Fenning paused for a moment, then called after him. You're really going alone? Yes. Fenning nodded. With your power, I'm not worried. Yesun turned to him one last time. I'm fine, Commander. He continued walking. Behind him, Wind Wolf spread his arms. Wait! We need to talk. The scar-faced guy turned to Wind Wolf. Are we really letting him go alone? Wind Wolf closed his eyes. We'd only slow him down. A guy like that doesn't need help. He looked at Yesun's back as it disappeared into the shadows. There was no smile on Yesun's face anymore, only quiet resolve. A few minutes passed as he walked alone through the dead city. His thoughts echoed, before I run into something even stronger, or a real disaster. I need to know the limit of my recovery ability. He walked between two massive corpses, monsters he had slain minutes ago. Then he stopped. A strange scent drifted into his nose. He grimaced. Smells awful, he muttered, pinching his nose. What even died here? Ash blew across the ground. A giant building, half destroyed and still burning, towered in front of him. Suddenly, Yesun's eyes narrowed. Something's coming. He felt energy from underground. What the? The ground began to shake violently. Yesun staggered back, trying to maintain balance. Crack! The building splintered, pieces flying everywhere. Then it exploded. Boom! A massive, red, muscular fist burst out of the ground. Yesun jumped just in time, but the fist followed him. Smash! The blow connected mid-air. Blood sprayed from Yesun's mouth as he was hurled across the sky. His body twisted in the air, but before he could even hit the ground, he flipped over and dove back in. A storm of destruction raged beneath him. The massive red fist was still smashing wildly, destroying everything. Yesun drew his sword mid-flight. The enormous hand twitched, as if it sensed him, and lunged again. But Yesun was ready. He dodged, just in time. The stone ground split violently as Yesun landed nearby, barely dodging in time. Suddenly, boom! A massive creature exploded from underground, soaring into the sky before landing with a thunderous quake. Before Yesun stood a gigantic red monster, eyes burning like scarlet embers. Its entire body radiated deadly magic. Yesun's eyes widened. Then, he smiled. A perfect opponent. He said, gripping his sword. Let's test how far this talent of mine can go. The monster locked eyes with him, and its burning pupils flared even hotter. In the next instant, its mouth opened wide, gathering fire magic at a terrifying pace. Yesen's smirk vanished. What the hell is it planning? Before he could move, a stream of hellfire erupted from the monster's mouth, swallowing everything in its path. Boom! The explosion lit up the sky. Back at base, Wind Wolf's squad watched in horror as a massive column of smoke and flame shot into the air. A battle just started, one shouted. Wind Wolf clenched his teeth, a cold sweat on his brow. He stared at the rising inferno in silence. Back at the battlefield, everything was reduced to flaming rubble. Then, a figure burst out from beneath the debris. It was Yesen. His shirt was torn to shreds, and he had a wild grin on his face. That lizard head, not bad at all. Dusting himself off, Yesen stepped forward and raised his voice toward the monster. I have an offer, he yelled. Let's go all out. Have some fun before you die. In response, the Lizard King roared and unleashed another ferocious stream of flame. Whoosh! Yesen vanished inside the blast. Everything around ignited, roofs, rubble, even the air itself. Yesen lay on the ground, skin scorched, a grin still hanging on his lips. This is just right, he groaned. A warm, healing aura surrounded him. He planted both hands into the burning earth. So you really want to burn me alive, huh? The next second, he stood up. He threw his sword over his shoulder. His eyes burned even brighter than the Lizard King's. I'm done playing, he said. Time to kill the Lizard King. His body surged with magical energy. He launched into the air like a meteor, aimed straight for the monster's face. Time seemed to slow. The Lizard King began charging fire magic again. Yesen's sword gleamed with fury and rage. Boom! An explosion shook the entire battlefield, stronger than the last. An hour passed, and yet, horrifying shockwaves were still felt miles away. The bald member of Wind Wolf's team shouted, "Those fire pillars haven't stopped in an hour. What kind of monster are they fighting?" The boy covering his ears screamed, "Is Yesen even still alive?" Wind Wolf shouted back, "I don't know. But we can't interfere with a battle like that." Back at the battlefield, Yesen's sword was buried deep in the Lizard King's flesh. The massive creature lay still, finally defeated. Yesen, soaked in sweat, sat atop the monster's corpse. He looked up at the sky, exhaled heavily, and whispered, "Game over. Victory." But it had come at a cost. Yesen frowned. This recovery ability, it drained so much stamina. He felt hollow, like a shell that had just barely survived the storm. He stood slowly. Looking at the creature he had slain, he trailed his fingers along its massive body, leaving a glowing path through the blood. I'll need that to recover. Yesen crouched down and placed both hands on the monster's corpse. He began to absorb the blood. Soon, he sat in a lotus position, hands on his legs, and closed his eyes. A soft melody hummed from his lips as his body absorbed the vitality. Time passed. Back at the camp, the bald guy pointed at the battlefield. The noise stopped. The battle's over. The girl looked at Wind Wolf's back. Is it over? The guy with the scar raised a shaky hand and pointed. Someone's coming. All eyes locked forward. Out of the smoke walked Yesen. Alive. Victorious. Commander Fenning smiled wide. His back. Yesen. Wind Wolf called out. The protagonist raised a brow. You didn't tell them to retreat. Wind Wolf scratched his head, grinning nervously. Well, we couldn't help, but we couldn't just sit tight either. The girl stepped forward, eyeing his scorched body. You okay? You've got nothing left to wear. Wind Wolf quickly pulled a spare t-shirt from his pack. Here, take this. It might be a little big though. Yesen didn't argue. He put it on. The girl glanced away, blushing. Sorry, it doesn't really fit. Yesen scratched the back of his neck awkwardly and stuttered a quiet thank you as he accepted the oversized shirt. Smiling up at the moon, he let the cool breeze calm the fire that still flickered within him. Meanwhile, the bald guy nudged the commander. What are we gonna do with all that loot? Wind Wolf frowned. Yesen deserves it. Every last bit. But Yesen, rubbing the back of his head and adjusting the belt on his waist, interrupted. Keep it. You all stayed behind. Because of that, the beasts didn't merge into a pack. Take the trophies, you earned them. The bald guy threw his arms up in celebration, standing atop the monster's carcass. I've never seen so much good stuff. The girl laughed. Seems like Yesen's not just tired from the fight, he's about to be wiped out from looting too. Yesen, eyes wide open, shook his head. I'm not interested in leftovers. I've got something more important. He turned sharply. I'm going after the Lizard King. Wind Wolf blinked. You're not transporting the prey with us. Yesen gave him a cold side glance, then turned and walked away. Wait! Where are you going? The commander shouted. The protagonist looked over his shoulder with a sly smirk. To the ant nest, where the ones with supernatural powers live. Wind Wolf's jaw dropped. Why you kidding? Yesen sprinted through the wilderness, leaving behind a streak of glowing energy in his wake. Wind Wolf's warnings echoed in his mind. The hardest area to clear is the ant nest. Even if they real level, there are too many of them. A wise warrior knows when to run. But Yesen's eyes glowed with unwavering resolve. I'm not here to run. His landing shook the earth as he arrived near the nest. Looking down from the rooftop of a ruined building, he scanned the gathering below, multiple elite armies already in place. He could feel their power. His aura pulsed with tension. The main forces are all here, Yesen muttered. He spotted familiar figures. There was Chaining, someone he recognized from the Mo family. And beside her, Mingjin, representing the Lin family. But then, his eyes narrowed. An old red-haired man stood out among the crowd. His right eye was covered with an eye patch, and his battle aura was unmatched. That was King, a legendary warrior from the Iron Fang base. Suddenly, King turned. Who's watching us? He roared. Yesen's breath caught. Crap! He noticed. The soldiers looked up, eyes locking on Yesen, standing atop the roof. King raised a hand. Get him! Yesen froze. A little early for introductions, huh? Moments later, two soldiers had dragged Yesen in front of the Iron Fang leader. King's glare burned into him. Are you an elite warrior? He stroked his beard and studied the young man. Who are you, and why were you watching the army? Yesen, sweating slightly, said, I'm a warrior from the Linai base. I heard there was a big mission here. I wanted to prove myself. King frowned, then suddenly barked, let him go. But the rest of the army wasn't satisfied. Whose family is he from? He's not one of ours. Shouts rose from different factions. No one knows him. King folded his arms across his chest. At your age, to be elite is rare. Why doesn't anyone recognize you? Yesen looked down, awkwardly raising his hands in defense. Then came a laugh. Mingjin stepped forward, grinning. How can none of you know him? He placed a firm hand on Yesen's shoulder. He's from my Lin family. Yesen blinked, realizing Mingjin had just thrown him a lifeline. Smart move, always one step ahead of the Mo family, he thought. Yesen smiled and closed his eyes, playing along. Mingjin folded his arms confidently. Yesen, show them what you've got. Then he leaned in, whispering with a smirk, an elite warrior, for free. But not everyone was happy. Up on a distant rooftop, Yuling clenched her fists. The Lin family, always scheming. He doesn't belong with them. Her gaze remained fixed on Yesen, eyes burning with suspicion. Yesen Zhu glanced toward Yuling and muttered, you were right. Yuling's lips curled into a sly smile. Of course. And don't forget, Yesen, you belong to my martial pavilion now. Up above, a flurry of birds suddenly scattered across the sky, their flight disturbed by something far more dangerous. A thunderous sound echoed across the plains. Dozens, no, hundreds, of white-clad warriors marched forward, their feet shaking the ground beneath them. At the front of the army strode the imposing figure of Old Man King, hands tucked in his coat pockets, like a storm hiding in silence. Yesen walked among the ranks with his eyes down. Now that I've been exposed as an elite warrior, he thought, there's no chance of leveling up quietly anymore. But then he smirked. No matter. With my current strength, I've got nothing to fear. Suddenly, a towering antel nest loomed before them. King halted in his tracks and raised his hand. Stop! Before them, a swirling electric orb floated ominously. Lightning crackled along the arm of the man controlling it. A cloaked elder knelt in front of the formation, electricity dancing around him. The magic field is ready, he reported solemnly. King stroked his short beard and muttered, it looks like a mountain. No, this is the lair of the ant with supernatural power. High into the sky rose the antels, stone towers riddled with gaping holes. They were eerie and ancient, like nests from some forgotten nightmare. Yesen grinned wide, dark excitement gleaming in his eyes. Finally, I've arrived. King stepped forward and raised his arms. Xinu, he commanded, you stay back. Yes, sir, replied the cloaked elder, bowing respectfully. King turned to the assembled army behind him. Everyone, stay alert. Wait, what's the old man doing? A bald warrior called out in confusion. King's expression darkened. With both palms pressed together, a magical seal burst into life above the antel. Then, with a sudden motion, the cloaked old man raised his hands and bellowed, "Open!" Boom! He slammed his hands onto the ground. The sky cracked open. Exploding fireballs rained down in a hellish storm. Flames engulfed the towering nest. Blasts tore through the structure, leveling walls and sending molten stone flying. Yesen shielded his face from the barrage, shouting to himself, "This field is insane. I have to learn this kind of magic someday." Meanwhile, from a nearby cliff, Zhu and Yuling observed the destruction. Zhu crossed his arms. King's gone mad. Isn't this too much for one mission? Yuling smiled calmly, one hand under her chin. The Iron Fang has its own strategy. Besides, those fireballs alone could flatten all of Linhai. That's profit in motion. Below, the last of the blasts subsided. The great antel, once a monstrous tower, collapsed into rubble with a final, earth-shaking roar. The warriors looked on in awe. The antel, it's gone! That magic field was incredible. Did we really wipe them all out? Two soldiers rushed toward the ruins. Dozens followed. But as Yesen stepped over the craters, frustration clouded his mind. No signs of life, not even a single ant corpse. Grimacing, he thought, if there isn't a single intact body, I can't copy their talent. From above, Yuling continued to watch with that same knowing smile. What a lovely show of power. That magic really stirred things up. Then a warrior near the ruins pointed at the ground. Wait! What is that hole? A massive gap had opened in the earth. Several soldiers gathered around it, peering into the black abyss. It's pitch dark. I can't see a thing, then, screams. Dozens of glowing red eyes blinked awake in the void. And then, BAM! A massive ant burst out of the hole, jaws snapping and body crackling with supernatural force. The nightmare had just begun. The battlefield erupted into chaos. From the abyss below, a monstrous ant, twice the size of a man, lunged upward and impaled a warrior through the chest with a massive spear-like limb. The soldier's body flew back like a ragdoll, crashing near his comrades in a heap. The giant ant let out a furious roar, its body engulfed in violent magical energy. Its limbs sparked with black lightning as it prepared to strike again. Mingan and Chaining stared wide-eyed. They're ants. Supernatural ants. All the warriors froze in shock. Then a sinister laugh echoed behind them. Yesen stood at the back of the army, a crazed grin stretched across his face. His eyes blazed with anticipation. This is perfect. But the horror wasn't over yet. One by one, monstrous ants began crawling out from every hole in the ground. Someone screamed, "There's too many." Old Man King didn't flinch. With a fierce glare, he raised his arm. "Prepare for battle." Mingan rallied his own group. "Linhai warriors. With me. We accept this challenge." The ground trembled as the united force charged forward. Hundreds of warriors ran headfirst into battle, blades drawn, fear left behind. Yesen didn't wait either. He drew his sword and sprinted toward a colossal and already locked in combat with several warriors. With a single, clean slash, he beheaded the beast, dropping it to the earth in a spray of dust and gore. Another one down, a soldier yelled, "Push forward." But Yesen didn't move on. He stared at the fallen ant with hunger. With a deep breath, he placed his hand on its body. A spark of power surged through him. Notification, high-level talent copied. A rush of dark magical energy engulfed his body. Shadows danced across his skin as his aura flared. Another notification blinked before his eyes. Would you like to fuse with high-level strength talent? But before he could respond, 3 furious ants charged at him, shrieking for vengeance. Sword still in hand, Yesen gritted his teeth. No time to fuse here. He slung his sword over his shoulder and muttered, "I need a safe place, now." But just as he turned to run, his legs shimmered with speed talent energy, and in a blink, he vanished, leaving only a burst of wind behind. However, the surprise wasn't over. As he dashed through the battlefield, two monstrous ants appeared right in front of him, cutting off his path. Guess we're doing this the hard way. In one motion, Yesun unsheathed his blade, activating his shadow blade technique. Then, shadow execution. He vanished again, reappearing between the monsters in a deadly blur. With a powerful arc, he slashed through both ants, leaving behind glowing green traces of his blade. Both creatures collapsed. Silence returned, briefly, until a bone-rattling roar shook the battlefield. Yesun froze. From the deepest pit of the anthill, a pair of enormous red eyes gleamed in the dark. The earth trembled. Magic thickened the air. This roar, Yesun thought, wide-eyed. It belongs to a high-level monster. Suddenly, a massive claw, brimming with ominous energy, burst out of the ground. Everyone turned as the soil cracked open. "What is that?" a warrior cried. A terrifying black silhouette rose from the ground. Towering over the battlefield, this ant was unlike anything they had seen. Hundreds of times larger than the others, it pulsed with uncontrollable dark energy. "It's a high-level ant with supernatural power," someone shouted in horror. King's face went pale. "Retreat! Immediately!" Warriors dropped everything and fled. Even the bravest among them lost their nerve. Mingan sliced through another ant but shouted in fury, "Cowards! Running away like that?" Then he turned to his squad. "Fall back! Everyone! Move!" One by one, the army abandoned the battlefield in full retreat. From her perch, Yuling watched with a smirk. HMPH. Rabble. Nothing more. She turned, her voice calm and cold. "Time for us to leave." Zhu followed behind her, still dazed by the sight of the enormous ant. "Lady Yuling, what about Yesun?" Zhu nervously asked what to do about Yesun, but Yuling only smiled and turned her gaze toward the battlefield. "Don't worry," she said with confidence. "He'll survive. That guy isn't someone who dies easily." Meanwhile, chaos reigned behind them. As the army fled, a young warrior turned to his companion mid-run. "Why are we running? Didn't we bring a great warrior with us? Can't we just fight this thing together?" Another gasping warrior shouted back, "You fool! That ant has both strength, talent, and high-level power. That makes it comparable to a grandmaster." In the stampede, Yesun ran among the crowd, but his eyes were sharp, not with fear, but with growing disgust. Great warriors? He thought bitterly. These so-called important people are nothing but cowards. Not one of them can be trusted. As if to prove his point, he watched Old Man King from the Iron Fang base, once hailed as a legend, outrun his entire squad, leaving his subordinates behind like they were nothing. Yesun's expression hardened. Suddenly, a massive ant with glowing red eyes lunged forward. It opened its grotesque jaws and began sucking warriors into its mouth like a vacuum. Screams echoed as bodies were torn off the ground, flailing helplessly before being devoured. Crunch! Crunch! The ant chewed, blood spraying between its jaws. Then it raised its head and let out a thunderous roar. Its magical power exploded, becoming overwhelming. A dark, crushing aura blanketed the battlefield. Warriors who had been running now fell to their knees, faces pale, limbs trembling. Some collapsed entirely, unable to lift their heads under the weight of the monstrous energy. I can't breathe. It's too heavy. What do we do?" Panic set in. But suddenly, a blur of purple streaked through them. Yesun, gritting his teeth, blasted past the fallen warriors, a glowing violet trail behind him. "This black air, it's crushing me," he thought. "I have to get out, now." Activating his speed technique at full power, he rocketed forward, shoving his body past its limit. Just as he passed the last of the warriors, clean air returned. His momentum threw him off balance. He tripped and rolled violently across the ground before finally stopping. Breathing heavily, he looked up. He was just 10 meters from the zone where the golden ant had unleashed its power. Staring at the deadly area, he muttered, "That golden ant. It'll be watching everything. I can't afford to stay here." With sweat dripping from his chin, he turned and walked away. Some time passed. The sky turned blue, and the sun climbed over the horizon. On a lonely road lay the skeleton of a massive beast. Yesun stood beside it, examining the bones. "Captain Windwolf," he whispered. "You really were a true hunter." He crouched on the monster's ribcage. "All that's left is bones. Nothing else." After a moment of reflection, He jumped up effortlessly, landing on the rooftop of a crumbling building. The sky was clear. Birds soared freely. A soft breeze touched his face. A faint smile crossed Yesen's lips. Without a word, he sheathed his sword, sat in a lotus position, and opened his system window with a wave of his hand. Do you wish to fuse with high-level strength talent? Yes, he answered in his head, firm and absolute. His eyes glowed with determination and hunger. A violent wave of energy surged through his body. The pain hit instantly. He convulsed, his body shaking as if every cell was being torn apart. Steam poured from his clenched jaw. But through the agony, he smiled. In this world, strength is all that matters, he thought. Nothing else holds value. That crazed grin stretched wider. Night fell. The moon cast its light across the rooftops. Yesen slowly stood up. With a single motion, he tore off his shirt, revealing a body now glowing with unrestrained power. The air itself vibrated around him. With hands on his hips and eyes burning bright, he declared, "It's time to go home." Morning returned. The sun shone brightly over the city. In his small room, Yesen now sat peacefully on his sofa, once again in lotus position. But something had changed. The monster had evolved. Inside his quiet home, Yesen sat cross-legged in deep concentration. Magical particles shimmered around him like tiny stars. With this high-level talent, he thought, my strength has multiplied tenfold. His lips barely moved, but his thoughts were fierce. Even as an elite warrior, I could easily crush a so-called great warrior at the initial stage. They're nothing now. His eyes remained closed, his body perfectly still, until peace met its natural predator, an angry little sister. Yesen! Yayo stormed into the room, arms flailing and eyes blazing. I've been waiting for you forever, she shouted, ladle in hand. But you just sit here every day like a damn statue. Seeing no reaction, her tone darkened. And don't even think about talking to me now. She clenched her jaw, waved the ladle threateningly, then huffed and marched to the kitchen. Fine. If you wanna act like nothing's wrong, then you better be ready. With a grin that sent chills into the salt shaker, she began aggressively seasoning the food. Let's see how you handle the full severity of a woman's wrath. Later that day, the table was packed with mouth-watering dishes, steaming meat, golden dumplings, spiced vegetables, and soup that could bring the dead back to life. Yayo, now the perfect hostess, called out sweetly, Brother Tilda, it's time to eat. Yesen sat down, eye sparkling. So many dishes, he said, clearly impressed. Leaning on the table, Yayo smiled. Well, you've been working hard, right? This is your reward. With a wide grin, Yesen rubbed his hands together. Then I guess I better eat everything. But just as he reached for his chopsticks, ding-dong. Yesen, wait! Yayo yelled as her brother launched out of his chair and bolted for the door. He flung it open. Commander Windwolf. Standing there was the old hunter himself, Commander Windwolf, with a giant backpack slung over one shoulder and a cheerful grin on his face. Yo! Windwolf chuckled. Hope I'm not late. Yesen pulled him inside immediately. What are you doing here? You didn't have to come all the way. The commander chuckled, tossing the heavy backpack onto the floor. Brought some trophies to share, he said, unzipping it to reveal fangs, eyeballs, claws, and other monster remains. Yesen scratched his head. Couldn't you guys just keep it? You and the others earned these. But Windwolf cut him off. We did. That's why I'm giving you your share. With a resigned nod, Yesen placed the bag down. Fine, but you're staying for dinner. I've got a question anyway. The commander sniffed the air and turned toward the feast. Wait. All this is homemade. All right, you twisted my arm. Minutes later, Windwolf was devouring plate after plate, groaning in delight with each bite. I haven't had food this good in months, he said, wiping his mouth. You're lucky to live here, kid. Yesen's not eating much today, Yayo said with a sly look. Yesen, she added quietly, don't you think something seems off? The commander blinked, mid-bite. I mean, 3 great warriors couldn't beat summons. Windwolf nodded slowly, chewing on fruit. Yeah. It was wild. The first wave failed, so the base gathered a second batch of elites. They failed too. He leaned in slightly. Then this giant golden ant showed up. Ridiculous power. Even made an elite warrior look helpless. Then how did it end? Yesen asked sharply. Well, the Iron Fang base lost it. They sent in a Grandmaster. Cleared the entire ant lair. Yesen shot up from the sofa, eyes wide. A Grandmaster cleared the whole trade route. Yep, Windwolf replied, deadpan. Though no one knows why the Iron Fang even cares about that route. He sat back, clearly annoyed. Was it even worth the losses? In the kitchen, Yayo silently washed dishes, her expression soft, a small smile playing on her lips. Yesen sat back down, deep in thought. Iron Fang base. What are they really after? Evening fell. Commander Windwolf stepped out onto the road, shouldering his now empty backpack. No need to see me off, he said, waving a hand. We'll meet again. Yesen nodded, waving from the doorway. Take care, Captain. As Windwolf disappeared into the twilight, a cold wind stirred the leaves, and Yesen stood still at the doorway, eyes shadowed with suspicion and curiosity. As the sun dipped below the rooftops and Windwolf faded into the night, Yesen remained at the doorway, still, alert, and suspicious. That silence didn't last long. Excuse me, a voice called from across the street. A man with a neat suit, hands in his pockets, stepped forward. Are you Yesen? He held an envelope in one hand, and his voice was crisp and official. I'm Yuan, manager of the Mo family. I've come with an invitation. Yesen blinked. The Mo family. As Yuan stepped closer, he bowed slightly and held out the envelope. The patriarch himself requests your presence for dinner. This is a personal invitation. Yesen scratched his neck awkwardly. Ah. Yeah. Lately, I haven't really been in the mood to go out. Yuan's polite demeanor instantly shifted. His eyes darkened, and a faint smirk spread across his face as a wave of menacing energy radiated from his body. No one declines an invitation from the Mo family, he said, voice ice cold. Windwolf, sensing danger, immediately stepped in. Ha ha, let's not escalate. I'm sure we can talk this out, right? But Yuan brushed him aside. He approached Yesen, resting his hand on the young man's shoulder with a mocking grin. You be wise to come, or this little moment will become unpleasant. Bad idea. Yesen's eyes snapped open, full of burning rage. In a flash, he smashed Yuan's hand away, grabbed his head, and slammed it straight into the asphalt with bone-crushing force. Crack! The ground split under the impact. Windwolf jumped, stunned. Yesen! That's enough. Yuan scrambled up, dazed, blood trickling from his forehead. He backed away, rage burning in his voice. Why you'll regret this? You'll pay, Yesen. I swear, I'll kill you. And then he ran, more like fled, into the shadows. Windwolf crossed his arms, letting out a long breath. Best not to pick fights with snakes. Yesen, he added, you sure you want to mess with the Mo family? Yesen looked at his own clenched fist. I don't care. He thought to himself, with my new strength, that guy's hand cracked like twigs. I barely used any force. Elsewhere. In a dark alley, Yuan sat on a crate, still shaking. The envelope meant for Yesen lay crumpled at his feet. Damn him, he muttered, veins bulging on his face, lips trembling with hatred. He dared to lay a hand on me? On the Mo family. His growl echoed in the silence. Then let's see who laughs last at the Mo family estate. Footsteps echoed down a grand hallway. Mo Cannon, the head of the Mo family, strode forward with hands behind his back. A sharp glint flickered in his eyes. He was both an elite warrior and the heir of Elder Mo. Seated on the sofa nearby was his father, Chaining, the old elder. Suddenly, the doors flew open. Yuan burst in, panting and stumbling. Head! Elder, he cried. He dropped to his knees, shaking. They attacked me. Cannon raised an eyebrow. I told you to invite him, not attack him. I didn't. Yuan wailed. I was respectful. But as soon as I said I was from the Mo family, he attacked me. He held out the torn envelope as proof. He even ripped this up. A cold silence settled in the room. Then, boom. Cannon's rage exploded. That whelp. He dares humiliate the Mo family. Energy burst from his body like a shockwave, sending Yuan flying across the room. Furious, Cannon spun toward his father. Old man, what should we do now? Chaining lifted his gaze, slow and deadly calm. His voice was raspy. Nonsense, he muttered, contempt flickering in his eyes. After a pause, Kanin waved a hand. "Get out, Yuan." The shaken manager stumbled to his feet. "Why yes, sir." As the door closed behind the disgraced manager, Kanin took out a small pill bottle and poured out a shimmering blue pill. He handed his father a glass of water. "Take it, father. You still need to recover." Chaining took the pill and swallowed it slowly. Then, after a long silence, he looked into the glass. "The ants," he muttered. "In that fight, I had no choice. I had to use the forbidden technique. The only way I survived was by pushing my body beyond its limits." He took a deep breath, each inhale labored, as though something inside was broken. But his eyes, they still gleamed with hate. A tense silence filled the room. Chaining, the old patriarch of the Mo family, stared into the distance from behind a grand window. His voice was low, haunted. "These wounds, they won't heal." Kanin, his son, and the current head of the family, tried to stay optimistic. "Don't say that, father. We'll find a way. Everything will work out." But the old man slowly stood from the sofa and turned his back. "I know my body better than anyone else." Hands clasped behind him, Chaining took a heavy step toward the window, his eyes fixed far beyond the horizon. "Once I'm gone, there will be no more great warriors left in our family." His voice trembled. "This is a disaster." Kanin's brows furrowed in concern. "Wait. Are you saying Yesun is expecting an invitation from the Lin family?" The old man didn't reply immediately. He looked down, voice soft and bitter. "We must act, for him, we must compete with the Lin family." But then, his eyes suddenly burned with rage. "If he won't come willingly, then we'll bring him by force." Kanin hesitated. "But he's not one of us. He's just a stranger. Even if we capture him, he won't truly side with us." Chaining turned around. "That's why we changed that." He pulled out a small red vial from inside his robe. Magical energy surged from it like a storm trapped in glass. "This," he said, eyes gleaming, "erases memories." He explained that it was originally prepared for the banquet, but now, there was no time to wait. With a flick, he handed the bottle to Kanin. "Use it." Kanin's eyes widened. "Erase his memory." He stared at the red liquid as if it were both treasure and poison. Behind him, Chaining calmly poured wine into a glass. "Once he forgets everything, we'll build him a new identity." He lifted the glass. "For example, we'll tell him he's an illegitimate son of our family, lost, wandering, finally returning home." Kanin almost dropped the bottle. "Illegitimate son." Chaining snorted. "No one would dare compete with you for the position of family head. So what if we say he's your son?" He sipped the wine. "We'll change his surname. The people will accept it." Kanin scratched his head awkwardly. "This might affect my reputation." "Enough chatter," the old man growled. Ice cold and sharp, he sat back on the sofa. "Do as I say." Kanin dropped to one knee. "This time," he declared, "I'll send 10 elders. We'll bring Yesun back, no matter what." Nightfall. Shadows danced across rooftops as 10 black silhouettes moved swiftly through the city. The Mo family had launched their mission. Their target? Yesun. But first, they were ordered to capture someone else. At Yesun's home. A quiet tap echoed across the wooden floor. One of the elders had slipped inside. With an earpiece in his ear, he whispered, "I've entered the target's home." The reply came immediately, sharp and cold. "First, capture the sister. Then, force Yesun to surrender." "Understood." Outside, the remaining 9 stood still in the shadows. "We've surrounded the house," one of them confirmed. "Ambush ready." Back inside, the elder stepped toward a closed door. Yao's room. He pushed it open slowly. Inside, Yesun's younger sister was peacefully asleep, her head tucked beneath a thick blanket. Standing over her, the elder whispered into the mic, "Target confirmed." "ACT." The captain's voice crackled in his ear. The elder reached out toward the blanket, but before his fingers touched it, whoosh! The blanket suddenly flew up on its own, wrapping tightly around him like a living creature. "What the elder gasped. In panic, he drew his sword, its blade gleaming with magical energy. But it was already too late. Slice! The blanket shredded under the blade, but as the fabric fluttered to the floor, what the intruder saw froze him in horror. A drop of cold sweat slid down his cheek. From the shadows, a hand lunged forward like a viper, Yesun's hand. With monstrous strength, the protagonist grabbed the invader by the throat, lifting him off the ground with one arm. His body was surrounded by a dark, ominous aura, surging like a storm. With burning eyes and a sinister grin, Yesen hissed, "I've been waiting a long time." In the invader's earpiece, the captain's voice barked orders, "Have you captured the girl?" But the elder couldn't respond. His face turned pale, eyes rolled white, sweat dripping like rain. Yesen's grip only tightened. Crack! The sickening crunch of bones echoed through the room as the man's neck snapped. His earpiece clattered to the floor. Yesen tossed the corpse aside like trash. From the tiny speaker came another shout, "Report!" "What's going on?" Yesen calmly picked up the earpiece, placed it in his own ear. "I've got it," he said with venom. "You want it back." The voice on the other side stuttered, Who are you?" Yesen smirked. "Catch!" With a whoosh, the corpse flew out of the living room window, landing outside with a loud crash. On the rooftop, the elders turned in panic. How is this possible?" one shouted as the others rushed to the fallen body. "No pulse," another muttered. "He's dead." "Be on alert," the captain barked. "There's someone helping the boy. Someone strong." But inside their heads, each elder had the same terrifying thought: in all of Linhai, only 2 people could dare defy the Mo family. Just then, tap. A sound behind them. "Who's there?" one elder shouted, spinning around. "Come out!" The rooftop squad, 6 men strong, stood tense. "Was that just my imagination?" one mumbled. Then suddenly, a brilliant green flash lit up the night. Before the elder could blink, his head was gone. "Second one," Yesen muttered, appearing in the light, a cruel smile on his face. "It's a shadow assassin," one of the remaining elders screamed. He called for help, another shouted. "Retreat! Scatter!" The 5 survivors fled in all directions. But Yesen raised a hand, his entire body erupting in magical energy. Speed talent activated. In a split second, he blurred forward and eliminated 2 more, their bodies hitting the ground before they could even scream. The remaining 3 looked back in terror. "He's too fast," one yelled. With a burst of violet flame, Yesen appeared behind the next elder. Swish! A clean slash, another life ended. From above, an elder dove down, fist blazing with power. "You shouldn't have revealed your true nature," he roared. Boom! The impact crushed the rooftop, but Yesen leapt away just in time. "TCH. Fast," the elder muttered, surprised by the protagonist's reflexes. "Too slow." Yesen countered with a rapid strike, another kill. No pause. No mercy. He rushed after the last few, leaping high into the air and channeling his next skill. Shadow Blade. The sky darkened around him. He streaked through it like a vengeful phantom. Shadow Execution activated. A surge of dark energy exploded from him. 3 more elders, gone in a flash of death and darkness. Below, the captain gritted his teeth, hearing only static and screams. "What's happening up there?" "Report!" But before he could get an answer, thud! Yesen dropped from the sky like a meteor, landing in front of him, cracking the asphalt beneath his feet. His bare feet radiated magical energy. His scarlet eyes burned with fury. Behind his back, he drew his blade slowly. The ground trembled. The remaining elders froze, faces pale. "It's him," one whispered. "It's the main character." "Grab him," the captain roared, pointing directly at Yesen. 2 elders shot forward, fists blazing with energy, but they had no idea what kind of monster they were charging at. Clang! Yesen let go of his sword, and it dissolved into thin air, vanishing as if swallowed by the night. The air around him shifted. His aura flared. His fists clenched. Across from him, 2 elders launched forward with tremendous force, their fists blazing with power. But Yesen didn't dodge. He charged, bare-handed. Strength talent activated. With burning eyes and full force, his fists met theirs in mid-air, resulting in a thunderous shockwave. The rooftop cracked beneath their feet. The other invaders looked on in horror, cold sweat running down their faces. How is this possible? He's fighting them both, at once. Before they could blink, rah! Yesen roared, and his magical energy surged several times over. His power blasted the 2 elders into the sky like ragdolls. Moments later, crash! They landed headfirst into the ground, cratering the asphalt. The battle was over. Almost. Yesen turned slowly. Only one elder remained, and he was already crawling backward in fear. How? How is this happening? He stammered. Wasn't he just an elite warrior? Yesen said nothing. He casually scratched his neck and then asked coldly, so this is Shab's father? The elder's face contorted in fear. He removed his mask and muttered, What? Yes, it's me. Please, we can talk this out. Don't kill me. Yesen stepped closer, each footstep louder than the last. You killed him. The elder fell to his knees instantly. That's fine. My son was probably rude to you. He deserved it, right? In a desperate attempt to survive, he added, I have money. I can pay you as much as you want. But Yesen simply raised his hand. A terrifyingly bright magical aura surged around his palm. The elder's face lit up in horror. Then, smash! Yesen grabbed him by the head and slammed it into the asphalt with brutal force. I like to pull weeds from the root, Yesen growled as he finished him off. Time passed. The moon drifted peacefully across the sky, shining above the scene of devastation. Yesen stood silently over the elder's broken corpse. Grabbing the man's cloak, he muttered, I don't let revenge fester in the shadows. He stared at the body. He was the one who tried to hurt my sister. Pulling the cloak over his shoulders and raising the hood, he whispered with chilling finality, and now, I'll exterminate his entire family. Elsewhere, the Mo family. Manhwa. Inside the luxurious estate, Ching sat lazily, hand resting on his cheek. Why haven't the 10 elders returned yet? He muttered. Across from him, the family head spread his arms confidently. No need to worry. The 10 great elders are unmatched in all of Linhai. He touched his chin and smiled smugly. Nothing is impossible for them. Crack! Without warning, a blade burst through the manor, moving so fast it left a shockwave behind. The sword ripped into Ching's sofa, shattering it into splinters. The old man barely dodged in time, tumbling backward. What the? He shouted, looking in the direction of the attack. Who dares to ambush us? The sword, stuck in the floor, shook violently, then flew back through the air into Yesen's hand. He stood calmly in the moonlight, cloaked and terrifying. You sent people to kill me, Yesen said coldly, resting the sword on his shoulder. I've returned the favor. Ching's face turned ghost white. Why you? Why are you here? Where are the elders? Yesen smirked darkly. Don't worry, you'll see them soon. A cruel smile twisted across his face. In hell. What did you just say? Ching roared, gritting his teeth in rage. But Yesen didn't answer. He jumped from the balcony, straight toward the Mo family head. Sword behind his back. Wind roaring. He closed the gap in a flash. Terror filled Ching's eyes. Slash! A blinding, powerful strike tore through the air. A red flash followed. Blood erupted from the Mo family head's mouth. His eyes rolled back, and his body dropped like a stone. Father, the old man screamed, catching Ching's lifeless body in his arms. The old man trembled. Clutching his son's lifeless body, he shook and prayed that this was all a nightmare. Then suddenly, bastard! He let out a feral scream, lifting his head. Tears poured from his eyes as an insanely powerful magical aura exploded from his body. Yesen narrowed his eyes with a calm smirk. Oh? Is this your secret art? I've seen this trick before. Didn't you use it when you ran away from those giant ants? But Chaining wasn't listening. His rage boiled over. You dare to kill my son, he bellowed, magical energy flaring around him like wildfire. The very air grew heavy. R.I.P. His robe began to tear as his body expanded in size, growing with bulging muscles and monstrous force. I'll kill you, he roared, charging like a beast toward Yesen. Yin, standing to the side, gasped in terror. Boom! Chaining's first punch smashed across Yesen's face. Then came the second, but Yesen leapt back just in time, causing the massive elder to crash through a stone wall. Yesen landed smoothly, sliding back across the polished floor. Prepare to die, roared Chaining as he emerged from the rubble, surrounded by wild, crackling energy. With burning eyes and fury in his voice, he snarled, even if your ashes are scattered to the wind, my hatred will remain. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Screams echoed down the halls, murderer! Dozens of guards stormed the room from every direction, weapons drawn. Surrounded now, Yesen stood calmly in their midst, raising an eyebrow. Oh? Now everyone cares, just because I killed your precious family head. His blade gleamed in the torchlight as he assumed his stance. With pure disdain, he snarled, the Mo family is full of idiots. Boom! His aura shifted in an instant. Chaining shouted, kill him. The guards rushed in. Yesen rushed faster. Shing! He leapt into the air and activated the shadow assassin technique. His blade carved through space like a green comet. In a single flash, all the guards dropped, dead. Gasps filled the room. One guard, barely alive, whispered, how is this possible? Chaining gritted his teeth, veins bulging on his face. Why Yesen has the power of a great warrior. Yesen didn't give him time to think. He charged again, shouting, let's see how long your secret art lasts. Chaining met him head-on. A massive sword formed in his hands, lightning dancing across its blade. Clang! Their weapons collided, and the ground beneath them shattered. A thunderous energy explosion rattled the manor. Far away, on a nearby rooftop, two cloaked figures watched the fight unfold. One of them murmured, is that a great warrior from the Mo family? He's strong, the other said with a wide smile. Young master, should I intervene? The first figure removed his hood, revealing Mingen, grinning like a man enjoying a good play. No, Elder Zed, he said coolly. Let's watch how this unfolds. Back at the manor, the fight grew fiercer. Yesen's sword swung with burning intensity. Chaining met him again, steel to steel, as their blades clashed violently. Clang! 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 Chaining gritted his teeth, frustrated. He's too fast. I can't land a single hit. Then, swoosh! Yesen's blade moved like lightning. He found an opening, a slash. Blood spurted from Chaining's side. He stumbled, barely keeping his balance, and slid backward. Gritting through the pain, Chaining raised his sword high and shouted with fury. Before Yesen could recover, the old man struck the ground with his sword, boom! The floor split open in a 5-meter radius. Dust exploded into the air. Yesen dodged just in time, skidding across the floor as cracks opened beneath him. Chaining clenched his teeth in frustration. He's dodging again. Damn him! Yesen stood, aura raging, his eyes locked onto his enemy. Chaining, panting, thought bitterly, this can't go on. I'm wasting too much energy. Chaining's breathing was heavy. He clenched his jaw and muttered to himself, I have to contact the Lin family before my secret technique runs out. Blood dripped from his face, but a sinister grin broke through. Come on, old man! Yesen shouted, eyes blazing. With his head held high and a malicious smile across his lips, he sneered, is that all? You're slipping. Suddenly, crack! A powerful lightning bolt burst from Chaining's hand. And then, PSSHHH. A smoke grenade landed at his feet, blanketing the room in thick grey clouds. Yesen covered his face, coughing and squinting through the fog. A smoke bomb? Really, he growled. You think you can run,